campaign says he is safe after gunshots were fired in the vicinity of where he was playing golf a short time ago. We're just now learning that the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office will speak shortly at about 3:15 Eastern Time. Of course, we'll monitor that, if not be able to take it live. CNN's Kristen Holmes is joining us back on the phone now, helping to first report this out. So the statement coming from the Trump-Vance campaign site, what have you since learned?
So we have learned exactly where this took place. We are told by sources familiar with the event that it happened today while Donald Trump was playing golf. He was at his Trump International Golf Course, which is in West Palm Beach, Florida. This is a different location than his Mar-a-Lago resort, which is in Palm Beach. We are still trying to get the details of what exactly this looked like, but we are told that the club went into immediate lockdown. We've also now gotten a statement from Secret Service that says that Secret Service is investigating what they are calling a protective incident following Trump and following those gunshots being fired. So this is clearly an evolving situation. We are still trying to understand what exactly the gunshots look like. And I heard you talking to one of your former guests about his security. And just to explain, as somebody who has followed this closely since that shooting, that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, Trump has had an extraordinary amplification of the security around him. That includes when he is both at home with local PD as well as traveling with local PD as well as with Secret Service. That means that he has people traveling with him at all times. I have seen him on the golf course. I've seen the videos of him on the golf course. He goes around one cart. He has Secret Service in the cart behind him. The amount of people traveling with him has also gone up since that assassination attempt. They have been amplifying that, again, both with local PD and with Secret Service. The other thing to keep in mind that they have done is they have tried to block off specific roads. Now, what's interesting about that, Fred, is that a lot of the roads that we know that they have blocked off are actually at his Mar-a-Lago resort, making it impossible for people to get close or to stop. Not clear what they have done, if anything, around this second property. So that'll be interesting to figure out what exactly they had in terms of security protocols in place. Just a reminder, even regardless of what exactly happened, the idea that gunshots could be fired within the vicinity close enough. The Secret Service is investigating now, that the campaign put out a statement saying that that he was safe, is pretty extraordinary, given the level of protection that he has right now and the fact that there was an assassination attempt on the former president earlier this summer. Again, of course, we are still learning the details. We are trying to figure out exactly what they mean when they say fired within the vicinity, but you have to take into account the fact that the Secret Service says that they are investigating this incident. That is not a random statement. They are going to be investigating an incident that occurred near a protectee. So not just any old incident that maybe happened miles away. It would have had to have potentially some kind of repercussion on their protectee or some kind of relation to their protectee. And I will tell you that I was also told that the course went into immediate lockdown after this happened. Obviously, that is protocol as they tried to figure out what exactly happened. I've talked to a number of law enforcement sources who are still piecing together the details. I'm assuming that we're going to learn more about this, as you said, in about 10 minutes when we finally hear from the law enforcement on what exactly they have uncovered. But it does seem to still be, the details are still coming together, Fred. So what we know now, again, just to reiterate, is that shots were fired. The Secret Service is investigating. Donald Trump was on lockdown. He was playing golf in West Palm Beach at his Florida International Golf Club when this happened.
Kristen Holmes, thank you so much. We'll get back with you. I want to bring back my law enforcement experts now and also add to the mix, formerly of the U.S. Secret Service, Jonathan Wackrow is with us. And again, Charles Ramsey back with me, as well as Steve Moore. I wonder, Jonathan, if I could go to you first and talk to me about, the role of the Secret Service in this investigation, at the same time continuing to offer protection to the former president.
Well, good afternoon, Fred. Listen, I just want to expand a little bit on what Kristen Holmes just reported about the enhanced Secret Service protection around the former president. I think that's really important here because what we've seen recently in the expansion of the protective agents that are around the former president is around really the outer perimeter, that early warning. In the Secret Service, they refer to it as the counter surveillance, and they work oftentimes with local police, especially around golf courses. We've done this for years, dating back to the Bush administration, where we had golf course protocols that were put into place, thinking about the concentric rings of protection away from the protectee. So what we have here is we most likely have shots that were fired in the vicinity, probably on the perimeter of the golf course, probably recognized by one of these either local police departments or Secret Service agents, which initiated that lockdown that we heard. The Secret Service has well-defined protocols to take the protectee and move them immediately from the open air spaces into armor. So ideally, they'd move them into the protective limousine, the armored limousine, or into a safe location at the clubhouse. All of this stuff is practiced by the Secret Service time and time again. And here, again, out of an abundance of caution, whenever they hear that there are shots being fired within the open air environment of the protectee, they're going to take the proactive measure of immediately moving them into a safe location. From an investigative standpoint, the protective intelligence agents that are now assigned to the former president are working with local law enforcement to identify the shooter, and they'll want to conduct a field interview immediately to assess, was this a targeted attack against the former president, or is this a criminal act within the region that actually had no factor to the former president himself.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And so, Chief Ramsey, to you. There will be this coordination. We just heard it underscored by Jonathan Wackrow, though. The coordination between local police, the sheriff's office, and a Secret Service. How will they parcel out, I guess, duties, directions into this investigation?
I would imagine the local law enforcement would be the lead until a point in time, or unless a point in time where it looks as if there was an actual threat toward the former president. If that's the case, then of course the Secret Service would take over. But right now, I don't know what they have. And until we have a press conference to really explain what took place, a lot of it's just speculation. I mean, John's absolutely right in terms of the procedures and the process that takes place. There's no question about that. But we don't know what we have yet. I mean, and until we do, it's hard to really draw any real conclusions. But they did the right thing. You got to get him to a safe location. You have to immediately. It doesn't matter until you sort things out. And eventually they will sort it out. But at this point in time, it's just ongoing. Maybe they'll have enough to tell us something concrete at 3:15, maybe not at 3:15. But the bottom line is Mr. Trump is safe. That's the bottom line, and that's what's important at this point in time.
Very important. CNN is now learning from a law enforcement official that a car has been stopped in that general area as it pertains to this investigation. John Miller is also with us now. And John, I understand you have some reporting, or you're learning from your sources about the weapon that may have been, a type of weapon that may have been used here, and where the suspicion or the motive, the direction of it is going right now?
So, I mean, I'll caveat this with, this is unfolding rapidly, so all of this information is preliminary, and it may shift and change, as we've seen before. But what we are looking at is starting to come into focus a little more sharply. So this is what we have right now from law enforcement sources who have been briefed on this, and it appears that around 2 o'clock, shots were fired at the golf course, possibly coming from the tree line, while former President Trump was playing golf. The Secret Service identified the direction, and the shooter returned fire at that gunman who fled. Witnesses were able to provide a description of an individual and a vehicle. We are told that a vehicle that is close to that description has been stopped by Palm Beach County police, possibly in Martin County, just over the line, and that they are holding that individual for the purposes of identification to see if the witnesses can identify that person or there is evidence in that car that may connect him. In the meantime, in the area of the shooting, sources say they recovered a backpack and a GoPro camera. The last piece is very interesting because it suggests, if there was such a camera there, that this individual may have wanted to record himself in a first person doing this shooting. So a lot of questions to be answered. Is the suspect, they have the right person? Is that the right car? You know, the weapon that they have has to be processed for evidence and ballistics. If there's video on that camera, if in fact it was recovered as we are told, what will that tell them? But that is what we are seeing right now. So what's the direction here? The direction here is the same as we saw in Pennsylvania, which is if this was a directed assault against former President Trump, the Secret Service and local law enforcement have had the handle on that in the immediate sense, but it would become an FBI investigation as an assault on a former government official who is under protection. And we're going to be seeing and hearing a lot about this in the hours and days to come.
Well, all those details are quite extraordinary, John. And just for clarity, to make sure I heard everything properly, when you say a backpack and a semi-automatic weapon, AK-47, were recovered, you know, semi-automatic weapon, the inference has not been made that it was necessarily used in this incident, but that one has been recovered. And an individual has also been stopped. When we say just one person, we're not saying that that person was also in the company of any others, correct?
That's right. Although, as I'm getting it from sources, the weapon was recovered at the scene, and again, we know this information can shift and change, but the presumption is that that would be the weapon that was used in this assault.
Steve Miller, formerly of the FBI, we heard, you know, John talking there about, Steve Moore, rather, talking about how the FBI would be involved here, if not leading the investigation. I guess fill in some of the blanks on how that would happen.
Well, as John said, once the crime has occurred that was directed at the president, then the Secret Service steps back and gives the FBI that investigation. So they're not encumbered providing ongoing security. They can't just be doing all these things at the same time. The information John gave is obviously just kind of startling. It goes back to what we were saying about getting aerial assets out there to see what might have been left on the course by the shooter. I'm stunned by the fact that there were shots returned, and this has gone from something that appeared to be coincidental to something that is going to be remembered for years.
Yeah, I mean, it is really extraordinary. I mean, and Chief Ramsey, yes, to hear, you know, John Miller also reveal there through this information that these shots were fired through the tree line, that there was a return fire coming from the Secret Service. Of course, we don't know, or unless, John, you've learned this too, what kind of distance we're talking about. Have you heard anything about the distance involved here? Okay, no. All right. So, Charles Ramsey, I mean, give me your reaction here to this kind of detail that we're hearing. Again, preliminary, but startling.
Well, first of all, John has incredible sources, and he just does it time and time again. He's able to get information very quickly. And if those sources are correct, I have no reason to believe that they're not. If it's coming from John, he double checks things. This changes everything. Yeah. It changes everything. And the way in which they go about investigating this now is going to be different. And again, like Steve said, if there was an exchange of gunfire where Secret Service agents or some law enforcement actually fired at a suspect. Again, this is rapidly unfolding. Information does change. Sometimes the first information you get is not 100% accurate, but it's close enough to know that this isn't just some random thing where two gangbangers shooting at each other outside the golf course. This sounds like much more than that, and it'll be handled accordingly. So we'll find out more information. They will be having a presser at some point in time, but this may delay the presser. This is a lot of information that they're going to have to go through and do as much as they can to substantiate before they actually go before the public.
Right. And John, with any investigation, eyewitness accounts is huge. I mean, it's paramount. And talk to me now about likely what is happening now with law enforcement trying to work together to talk to as many people as they can from all of these angles. If we're talking about a vehicle on a road in the periphery, a tree line, it would mean someone getting out of the vehicle, someone possibly eyewitnessing this person walking through the woods. I mean, there are a lot of potential eyeballs that might be involved here.
Well, there are. And I mean, we're seeing that literally unfold in action as we kind of go through these accounts, because we've heard accounts from witnesses who called into the police saying that there were individuals shooting at each other, you know, on the outside or the perimeter of the golf course. What is coming into focus now, because that story kind of took it away from, oh, well, these weren't shots at Donald Trump, these were shots being fired between two other people, it is most likely that that was the Secret Service agents pursuing this subject and shooting back and forth or returning fire, which caused those witness statements to emerge. I also think you're seeing the law enforcement action here between the rapid engagement of the Secret Service returning fire with apparently more than one agent, possibly more than one agent, and a description of a car, Palm Beach County and its law enforcement partners, then kind of clicking on those technology switches. What do we have for cameras? What do we have for license plate readers? Do we have a license plate on that car or a partial? Can we scan those readers and put that over the air and alert more units for a stop? At any event, they did stop a possible suspect in a car matching the possible description, and they're sorting through that person now and trying to get those witnesses who saw him to look at him and again, possibly in a field show up and see if they can confirm, is this the person they saw fleeing? And of course, then there's going to be the matter of that automobile, whether they go through it in the course of exigent circumstances for safety reasons, or lock that down for a search warrant. All of this is still unfolding as we are talking about it.
Again, was that you, Chief? Somebody was about to say something? Okay, sorry. Just all these interesting signals crossing. All right, thank you so much, John Miller. Hold on, gentlemen, because I want to bring in CNN's Senlin Serfati at the White House, because I understand that the Harris campaign and, of course, the sitting president have all been informed of what's going on. What are you learning?
That's absolutely right, Fred. Both Vice President Harris and President Biden have been briefed on this incident, and they're expressing that they're relieved that former President Trump is safe. Now, this just in from a White House official saying in a statement, quote, the president and vice president have been briefed about this security incident at the Trump International Golf Course where former President Trump was golfing. They are relieved to know that he is safe. They will be kept regularly updated by their team. So that notable coming from the White House in this ongoing situation as we continue to learn more, Fred. And notably, the vice president and the president are both here in Washington, D.C. President Biden is here at the White House, and they both have no events on their public schedule. And we, of course, will keep you updated as they learn more here at the White House.
All right, Senlin Serfati, thank you so much for that. We'll keep tabs with you. Appreciate it. Back to my law enforcement experts who are back with me now. And I wonder, Steve, more, to you, if you could speak to the need or the urgency for West Palm authorities. We heard that they were going to have a press conference possibly at 3:15 Eastern time, but talk to me about the possible urgency of getting out information that it does know, or the importance of delaying information because this is so early in the investigation.
Well, both are necessary, Frederica, because number one, you need to ensure that there are not any additional follow-on attacks planned. And you do that by quick searches, by quick investigation. And as John said, you have to make hard decisions like, do we want to search that car without a warrant under provisions that allow you to search a vehicle because it is movable and easily taken? Or do you want to wait for a warrant, which would make your findings there much more secure in court? I think that's the direction we're going to have to go. And, just to put something else in the mix here, if that gun, if the rifle that was found is an AR-15, or I'm sorry, an AK-47, that's kind of interesting because every other shooter we've seen recently have AR-15s, a lower caliber. I've been trained on both, and the AK-47 is a ridiculously powerful weapon. And there are many fewer than the AK or the AR-15. So that's going to be a lead and an interesting aspect of this.
And then I wonder, Charles Ramsey, Chief, how will law enforcement investigate, even if they confiscate this AK-47, perhaps tow, later wait for a warrant for the vehicle? What kind of information might they be able to extrapolate from these two things and use it as it fills in the blanks on this investigation?
Well, I mean, if this is the suspect in this particular incident, there will be search warrants, whether they get one immediately for the car or for a home or wherever. I mean, there are a lot of things going on behind the scenes to try to identify this person. You got to check his social media footprint. There's a lot of things that'll be going on as part of this investigation. I would imagine before they actually search that car, at the very least, they'll get bomb dogs to check it out just to make sure that there are no explosive materials in the car. So in my opinion, they'd be better off getting a search warrant because once they get him out of the car, check it out to make sure there's no explosives. But then be careful because all that evidence is evidence you're going to need later on in court once if this is in fact the person responsible for the shots fired.
And then we were told that West Palm Beach sheriffs might have a press conference about 3:15. Now we're being told that the sheriff's office, in concert with the U.S. Secret Service, will have a briefing shortly. So unclear exactly what time that will be. But then, John Miller, perhaps this underscores the importance of speaking on one accord. What do you expect?
It's the best way to go, which is everybody who has been involved in this. It's been a team effort that rapidly unfolded between multiple police agencies and the Secret Service to get together and do that first briefing. Number one, it will help us sort through the details that we have and which ones have shifted or changed, if any. But number two, for the general public, it gives them that flash brief, which is, here's what we know, here's what we don't know yet, and here's when we're going to get back to you with more. And I think that's very helpful as they try to put that together. Your goal is to get it together within the first hour. That's really hard to do, but that's your goal, and I think they're moving towards that.
And Steve, in addition to further investigating a weapon that was recovered, looking at the vehicle, questioning the suspect, it also means descending on that person's residence, whether they've even learned a place of work. Talk to me about those things that are probably happening right now.
Oh, they definitely are happening right now. There's a command post right now firing off leads to different agencies. They are trying to get traction on this pretty quickly. They'll be talking to family members, friends, coworkers, as you said, and then from those people, they're going to get secondary names. Say, oh, he hung out with this person at work. You're going to get that secondary wave of interviews, and it's going to mushroom out to where you're going to need probably 100 to 200 investigators to hit this really hard, really fast, so that you can get all of the family, all the friends. Plus, you're going to have the forensic computer people come in and just find every bit of IT hardware and software he has and mirror it and get it, have people looking at it as fast as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. And John Miller, I'd love to put you on the spot one more time because from your sources, we're learning all of this new information from, the shots being fired shortly after 2 p.m. I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind one more time telling us what you're learning from your sources based on the sequence of events that they're reporting what happened.
So, again, preliminary information is that the former president was on the golf course playing golf, being guarded by his Secret Service detail, that shots were fired coming from the direction of a tree line, we are told, that Secret Service returned fire towards that shooter and pursued an individual, and shots were exchanged, and that witnesses say an individual was seen fleeing, apparently in a car. A description was given and put out. License plate readers were searched, and a car stop was made by local law enforcement where an individual is being detained. We do not know whether that individual is the shooter or just someone who fit the description or was in a similar car. They were in the process of trying to get witnesses who saw the individual who was shooting and fleeing to make that identification. And of course, they're investigating that individual and his background. The gun that was recovered with a backpack, and we are told a GoPro camera. So those things are all going to have extreme relevance. What's in the backpack? What other things may be there that could be evidence? Additional ammunition, perhaps maps or directions. What is that weapon? That will be the job of ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, to determine the serial number on that weapon and trace it at least to the point of sale. And then at that retailer, they can find out to whom it was sold and when. Florida gun laws are relatively lax in that once you obtain a weapon, you are able to sell it to other people. So they'll be going through that to see if it connects to the gunman. As we saw in the last attempt on President Trump's life, the gun actually led them to the identification of the gunman because its point of sale was to his father and then to him. So a lot of wheels turning right now.
Yeah, all very fascinating.
I would also say
Go
that
ahead.
A good deal of this reporting also comes from Kristen Holmes, who, of course, covers the Trump campaign and all of his movements with us, and was confirmed by my sources. So we're getting this from a couple of directions.
Exactly, and she's doing additional reporting, so she'll be joining us again very soon as well. So back to the backpack and the AK-47 that were recovered. Well, we just had the conversation about a warrant would be needed, most likely to best preserve and protect what information is garnered from the vehicle. In this case, it was left behind, if I heard you correctly the first time around. It was left behind. There wouldn't be a warrant needed, but there could instead be a search conducted right away in that backpack, and that kind of tracing of information of the AK-47 can happen immediately, correct?
It can, but they're going to be very careful in the handling of these things. I mean, depending on where that gun was found. Right now, we are operating on the information that it was found near the scene. If it was found in the car, that would be one further thing tying that individual to the alleged crime, but that's not what we have right now. And again, as Chief Ramsey pointed out, and Chief Ramsey's been around a long time and he's lived this experience, the first story is never right. But we believe that the information we're getting from our sources, which is the flash reporting coming from law enforcement on the scene, is going to be a pretty close composite to how this unfolded. That gun will have to be processed for DNA, for fingerprints. So what the practice that I've always used at the scene, that my colleagues always used at the scene, is if the gun fell with the serial number facing up, to take a picture of it and then not to handle that weapon at all, because you don't want to add any biological material or disturb it before the lab people get to it. You want to give it to them as pristinely as possible.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. I want to bring in senior justice correspondent Evan Perez, who's with us now. You have more information on someone detained?
That's right, Fred. The authorities there in Secret Service on the scene were able to detain a person. Now, obviously, as John just making reference, a lot of this is very early information from law enforcement. A lot of times it's it's just the heat of the moment, and they're trying to report what they have at the scene. But at this point, what they're saying is that they've detained a person. Now, they believe this is a person who was connected to this scene, and the reason why there were shots fired from the Secret Service side is they believe that this person was poised to fire shots, perhaps in the direction of the former president. They were trying to prevent this from happening, and so they obviously, given everything that has happened in the last few weeks, they're obviously very much more on guard and making sure they are aware of any possible threats. And so that's what they decided to do here. We don't know if that person was struck by anything, but now begins the harder work of trying to figure out everything about this person. What, if any, connection they had to any political views that could have influenced what happened. All of those things, the motivations, and how long they've been planning this. All of that stuff is, of course, now a big part of this investigation. And keep in mind, down in Florida, where the former president lives and where he spends a lot of his time, other than in New Jersey, is his club there. He has a great deal of protection, and so that's one of the things that seems to have come into play here, is the extra layers of protection, especially when he's on his home golf course.
Evan Perez, thank you so much. If you had folks at home are just now joining us, we want to let you know the breaking news that we're following. Former President Donald Trump's campaign saying he is safe after gunshots were fired in his vicinity while he was on his golf course a short time ago, just after 2 o'clock Eastern time. We're learning that Trump was playing golf at the club, the Trump International Golf Club in Palm Beach, Florida, when this took place. Sources are telling CNN that officials believe the shots were intended for Trump and that an AK-47 was recovered near a tree line area there at the golf course. Law enforcement officials saying that a car was also stopped nearby in relation to the shots being fired. A press conference from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Secret Service will be taking place soon. Of course, we're going to continue to monitor it and take it live if we're able to do that. My law enforcement panel is back with me now. John Miller, Charles Ramsey, Steve Moore, Jonathan Wackrow. And, John, you made a great point about just tracing the serial number off that AK-47 in any way they're able to do that without compromising any evidence that is on there. How long might it take if they were able to retrieve that kind of serial number information without compromising any forensic evidence on that weapon before they're able to get a confirmed identity of the person who may have purchased it and any kind of activity that may have happened with that weapon?
So the gun tracing system that the ATF uses is computerized. They can trace that gun from the manufacturer to the store it was sold to. But that's where things can slow down, because they then have to go to that merchant. They have to get that merchant to open their books and say, here's this serial number. When did you see it? When did you sell it, and to whom? And that doesn't tell us if that person sold it to somebody who sold it to somebody. So it can be a time-consuming process, or it can unfold very rapidly. It's a Sunday. Is that store open? Are they there? It could take some time. But in the context that they have a description of a vehicle, they have a vehicle stopped, they have a possible person in custody who's being investigated to determine whether he was the person involved in this. The tracing of the gun might become less critical if that suspect turns out to be a good suspect in this case. If that suspect turns out to be not the person involved, then the tracing of the gun, of course, and all of this will happen simultaneously, becomes more critical.
Steve Moore, what about what we would see seemingly simple, cross-referencing of fingerprints? I know we talked about not compromising the weapon, but if you have someone detained, you have a vehicle and possible fingerprints on this AK-47, might those be lifted right away with a cross-referencing or a comparison?
Well, the problem with fingerprinting the gun right away is if you do it quickly in order just to get fingerprints, you're possibly destroying DNA evidence and other evidence that would be crucial. The DNA is the stuff that's most perishable, while the fingerprints will survive a lot of handling. So that would be the last thing they'd want to pull off the rifle. So they're certainly going to try to avoid that. I mean, if the gun had, say, a scope or something like that, number one, it would tell you that he wasn't out plinking. It would also be a possible source where you could go to try to find a fingerprint which wouldn't compromise the rest of the whole gun. If it were my case, I wouldn't want them doing that because, as Chief Ramsey pointed out, every shortcut you take now, and by shortcut, I don't mean illegal actions, but every avenue you take to allow you to obtain information without a warrant or without properly processing is evidence that is at risk when you go to trial.
And Chief, it sounds like a lot of information thus far that we're learning, but of course, at the same time, it's not enough information. What are your thoughts right now?
Well, I mean, it's still early. So, it's a lot considering it's only been slightly more than an hour. So this is a lot of information, and more will come out over time. But again, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, was the suspect actually able to fire a shot, or did the Secret Service see him prior to him being able to do that, maybe getting in position? And then the shots that you heard were actually the Secret Service taking action against the prospective shooter. We don't know the answer to that. That's the kind of stuff we'll find out at this press conference. So there's a lot going on right now, a lot of information. But the fact that it's been this long now, they said 3:15, now it's about 3:40, tells me there's more, again, to this story than just random shots being fired outside the golf course that had nothing to do with the president. And they're actually trying to, they're trying to get their timeline. Right. They're trying to get as much information as possible. So what they give you is as accurate as it can be, considering the fact that this is early in the investigation. They don't want to speculate. They want to just give you as much concrete facts as they possibly can.
Right. And then, Chief, because I know you've been in this position so many times, with local jurisdiction, also working with federal authorities. So in a case like this, when there is a lot of information, of course, a lot of blanks still have to be filled. There is a conscientious decision-making process with this coordinated effort about what kind of information should be made public. So I wonder if you could take us through that right now, how U.S. Secret Service, how, Palm Beach Sheriff will try to make a determination about what is the information that the public needs to know, what is information that they need to keep close to the vest so as not to compromise the investigation, which is ongoing.
Well, that's going to become more of a challenge if, like John said, this individual that they have right now that they're detaining turns out not to be the person, just someone who happened to be driving the same kind of car, for an example, and you still have someone who's out there that they're looking for. But when they get together and they go through the investigation, they make a quick determination as to what can be released, what should be held back, either because it hadn't been verified yet, or that there's other people that they may be involved in this and they don't know yet. And so there's going to be some information withheld. But there'll be a lot of information I think they'll be able to provide us that at least lets us know that this wasn't just some random incident. This was actually a threat to the former president, or not.
John Miller, what's likely happening at the Trump International Golf Club right now? It was under lockdown for a period of time. I've not learned any information as to whether that's been lifted, even though they have this kind of information, to lead them in the direction of the vehicle and a person detained. But what likely is happening there with the investigative phase in terms of interviewing and looking at cameras, videos, etc.?
So immediately, the golf course itself is a crime scene, and that means where the shooter was shooting from, whether that was on the golf course or whether that was from outside the golf course at a perimeter, that's a crime scene. Where the Secret Service returned fire, where their shell casings fell in the grass, that's a crime scene. Where those bullets may have struck and be embedded in a tree, or somewhere else, that's a crime scene. So the golf course has to be sealed now, and that's going to be likely FBI evidence recovery team, the ERT, and Secret Service and local law enforcement, because there's going to be a lot of ground to cover in basically a grid search. That's going to remain a crime scene for some time, and I'm talking about through tonight, possibly into tomorrow, while they literally cover all that ground. As Chuck pointed out, and Steve, they're going to want to look at every camera. They're going to want to look at who's been there. They're going to want to look at cameras going backwards to see, do we see that person doing some reconnaissance in the days leading up to the shooting, as we saw with the suspect in the Pennsylvania case. They're going to want to look at the license plate readers and see what cars passed by there, and whether or not any of them are connected to the individual they have stopped. So there's a giant set of wheels that are turning now. And as Steve pointed out, it's better if they turn slowly, as long as they have that crime scene locked down. They'll be looking to interview those witnesses and re-interview them. This is going to be a big deal in terms of investigative resources.
And Jonathan Wackrow, formerly of the U.S. Secret Service, are you still with us? I know we don't see you, but can we hear you still? All right, it looks like, okay. All right, very good. So, Jonathan, I wonder if you could help underscore the importance of this coordination between the U.S. Secret Service and Palm Beach sheriffs in what is expected to be a briefing that we hope to be able to carry live. It was scheduled for 3:15, but now we understand it will just happen momentarily. And there we're now looking at a live shot, if we can show that again, of them preparing the microphones and that arena for that upcoming briefing. And I wonder, I know it's early, this allegedly happened just after 2 o'clock based on the reporting that we're receiving, but I wonder if you're able to help us discover whether the Secret Service will feel like it is compelled to have the best timeline possible, because remember, shortly after the Butler, Pennsylvania attempted assassination, the U.S. Secret Service got a lot of heat for not having a timeline. Granted, that was, shortly, like days, if not weeks after that incident. But today, do you believe they're probably piecing together the best kind of timeline possible to reveal publicly?
Period. I don't know if it's tomorrow.
What they're going to try to do is reassure the public. And unlike what we saw with the incident in Butler, Pennsylvania, when local law enforcement had their first press briefing, the Secret Service was not there. And, that was a fatal flaw by them. Why? Because right now the Secret Service, along with their local and federal counterparts, need to reassure the general public, one, that the former president is safe. They took the appropriate action. They had the right structure in place to protect the former president. Two, they need to address, to the extent that they can, that there's no additional threats. Right now, the former president was shot at in a protected environment. They need to assure the public that there are no additional threats, to the extent that they know that now. And if they can't confirm that, they need to describe what actions are they doing to ensure the public's safety. As Commissioner Miller said, this is just an initial briefing. They're going to talk about what they know right this second. The actions that they're taking. There's a lot we don't know. There's a lot we don't know about the suspect potentially, the motivation behind the shooting, the intent. We definitely know the capabilities of the shooter because they launched the attack. But in the world of the investigation, we're only in its infancy, so we're not going to have every single answer. And I want to make sure that the public, we sort of level set expectations of what we're going to hear. But the fact that the Secret Service is going to do a press briefing jointly with local law enforcement is extremely important in starting to be very transparent about what happened, what is going on, and what the future looks like in terms of this investigation.
Steve Moore, formerly of the FBI, what are you looking to hear from this briefing?
So much. In their command post, the information is coming in even faster than it's coming into us. So what I would want to know is, were shots fired downrange, or as I think it was Chief Ramsey said, was there no shots fired by the shooter and just shots fired by the Secret Service? That would be fascinating to me. I would also like to know whether the rifle had a scope on it, which would indicate that he was out there shooting long distance. I would like to know about the suspect himself. Is he from Florida? What are his allegiances, his alliances, his social media gist? And I'd like to find out whether he's involved in any organizations. There's so much there that we haven't even scratched the surface yet of all the information. But those are the things I want to know right now. How many rounds were fired downrange? And they can estimate that by how many casings, and whether or not this person engaged the Secret Service agent afterwards. Which would mean that if he had left the AK, maybe he had a pistol with him to defend himself, which is another indicator. If you remember Lee Harvey Oswald, after he left with after shooting a rifle, he killed a policeman just down the way with a pistol. So, I mean, this would indicate the seriousness of the attempt. So I guess what I'm looking for is this a crackpot amateur, or are we looking at a long-term plan?
All right. Thank you so much for that. Sunlen Sarfati is at the White House. And Sunlen, I understand you have a statement now coming from Vice President Kamala Harris.
Fred, this is just a new statement in from the vice president expressing that she is glad that former President Donald Trump is safe. This was sent out just moments ago from the vice president's account on X, formerly Twitter, and she says in full, quote, "I have been briefed on reports of a gunshot fired near former President Trump and his property in Florida, and I am glad that he is safe." She ends with, "Violence has no place in America." Now, this comes as we are also learning that President Biden has been briefed just in the last hour here at the White House. Both Vice President Kamala Harris and current President Biden are here in Washington, D.C. They are not on the campaign trail. They have no events on their public schedule. We received a statement from a White House official early on in this incident, just in the last hour, expressing similar, that they both had been briefed and they both are relieved that he is safe. Notably, that statement did not express what Vice President Harris did in hers. She added at the end, "Violence has no place in America." So certainly signifies, as we learn more about this incident, potentially what happened, potentially what the motive is, notable that the Vice President here reiterating that violence should not be in politics in America at this time. Fred?
All right, Sunlen Sarfati at the White House. Thank you so much for that. Back with me now, my law enforcement panel: John Miller, Charles Ramsey, Steve Moore, Jonathan Wackrow. And I wonder, Chief Ramsey, what are your expectations in this briefing that could happen momentarily involving Palm Beach sheriffs and U.S. Secret Service?
Well, I mean, the first briefing, normally you don't necessarily get all of your questions answered. They may not have all the answers to all the questions, but I think you'll get a lot of information. If this is actually a suspect in this case, you'll get a pretty good sense. Now, whether or not they release a name, that's another matter, because they still got locations they've got to secure: a home, Maybe if he's got a business, they want to interview relatives, because the minute that name's out there, media and everybody else is going to be all over it. And so, you want to do as much as you can before that takes place. So there's a lot of stuff that still has to happen. But my sense is that you'll get quite a bit of information to know whether or not was this an attack directed at the former president or not. And I believe that they'll be able to at least answer that. And I think Steve raised a good point with this exchange of gunfire. If the AK was actually left at the scene, he had a secondary gun. Did they recover any other weapon out of that car? I mean, there's all kinds of questions that they may or may not be able to answer, but I suspect they'll answer quite a few.
Jonathan Wackrow, formerly of the U.S. Secret Service, we can hear you, can't see you. I'm wondering what your expectations will be from this joint briefing.
Well, my expectations are very similar to what the rest of the panel is discussing, which is we want to know what the facts are right now. Right, this is a very dynamic and rapidly evolving situation. I mean, I think we're less than 2 hours from when the reported initial shots were fired. We do understand that they have a suspect in custody, but again, as that interview process and investigation starts, it may not be the person, or it may be one of many other people. Again, we need to hear from the Secret Service, local law enforcement. Again, what do we know now, and what does the future look like in terms of this investigation? We do know that some items of evidentiary value, to include the weapon, was recovered. We want to be able to understand how that investigative process is going to utilize those items, again, to either confirm the identity of the shooter or start pointing to others that may be involved. Again, the Secret Service, local law enforcement, and the FBI, who will now be taking over the lead role in the investigation of, again, another attempted assassination, potentially, of the former president. What are all of those entities doing? What is their role and responsibility? Again, if you think about, what the reporting has been to date, we also understand that Secret Service agents returned fire, and potentially pursued the suspect. Again, so now we have another complexity, which is an agent-involved shooting. That's another investigation by the local prosecutors in the U.S. Attorney's Office that will also open up. So again, very complicated landscape, not too different than the early hours around the attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania, just a short time ago. So the expectations coming out of this is that there is a plan to investigate this shooting, reinsure the public that they are safe, and be transparent about what does the future hold in terms of the investigation.
All right, I want to thank everybody, John Miller, Charles Ramsey, Steve Moore, Jonathan Wackrow. Appreciate all of you. We're going to continue to follow this breaking news. Former President Trump's campaign saying he is safe after gunshots were fired in the vicinity a short time ago at his West Palm Beach golf club. Officials believe an armed individual intended to target Trump. A person was detained following the incident. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Frederica Whitfield. Our breaking news coverage continues after this.
For 30 years, I've been saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up. But you know, I can't.
Carver, Saturday, October 5th on CNN.
You're seeing Skechers' famous glide step footwear everywhere. And now that famous design is available in hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Get the comfort and style of glide step now with the convenience of slip-ins with no bending down or touching your shoes. Try glide step Skechers slip-ins.
T-Mobile's 5G network connects 100,000 Delta employees so they can make every customer feel like they've arrived before they've left the ground. This is how business goes further with T-Mobile for Business.
Did you know how you feel can be affected by the bacteria in your gut? Try new Align yogurt-coated probiotic fruit bites. With a delicious apple and blueberry-flavored fruit center and yogurt coating, each bite is infused with added probiotics to help promote a healthy digestive system every day. Plus, they're packaged in individually wrapped pouches for daily digestive support on the go. Look for new Align yogurt-coated probiotic fruit bites online and in the digestive care aisle of your local retailer. Brand Power, helping you buy better.
Is your dog telling you they may have allergic itch? Apoquel is the #1 treatment for allergic itch that veterinarians have trusted for over 15 million dogs. And it starts working in just 4 hours.
Do not use in dogs with serious infections. May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations or pre-existing cancers and serious infections. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs less than 12 months old.
Ask your vet for Apoquel, now available in a tasty chewable.
Want the effects of Viagra, but faster? Meet Rose Sparks. They contain sildenafil and tadalafil, but Sparks dissolve under the tongue. Dissolvables work faster than old school pills. See if Sparks are right for you at ro.co/sparks.
Relax. You booked a Verbo.
This election is about two very different visions for our nation. One focused on the future, and the other focused on the past. When the middle class is strong, America is strong. Lowering the cost of living will be a defining goal of my presidency. I'll lower the cost of insulin and prescription drugs for everyone, and I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food. More than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut. We will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals that are affordable for the middle class. Together, we will build an economy where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed. Now is the time to chart a new way forward.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
With Chime, I can get paid when I want. I couldn't believe it. I can get up to $500 of my pay on my schedule. There's no interest, no credit checks, no mandatory fees. And that's why I Chime. Join me at chime.com and get paid when you say.
Morgan Stanley is partnering with the Women's Tennis Association to remove boundaries. Because this game is for everyone.
TV on the Edge premieres next Sunday at 9 on CNN.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Jessica Dean, and we begin with breaking news. Former President Donald Trump is safe after a shooting incident near the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach, Florida. The Martin County Sheriff's Office saying they have stopped a vehicle and taken a suspect into custody. We know a gun, an AK-47 style weapon, has been recovered near that scene as well. Now, we are standing by for a press conference from police and the Secret Service, which we are expecting in the next half hour. Let's begin, though, with CNN's Kristen Holmes. Kristen, tell us the latest, what you're hearing right now.
Right, Jessica. So what we were told is this afternoon when Donald Trump was on the golf course at West Palm Beach, that is Trump International Golf Course, he was in between holes when shots were fired. We are told by sources that Secret Service fired shots, and as you noted, a person has now been detained. There was a long rifle, so an AK-style rifle that was recovered with that person in the car after they were detained. It is still unclear what exactly a motive was, but officials have told me, as well as our colleague John Miller, that they believe that Donald Trump was the intended target. Again, so this would have been a suspect who was armed, essentially waiting for Donald Trump at a golf course in West Palm Beach. He was on lockdown. The entire course went into lockdown. It is unclear where Trump is at the moment, if that lockdown had been lifted, if he has moved back to his Mar-a-Lago resort, or if he is still waiting currently at the golf course. Right now, we are not intending to hear from the former president, but all of this is still very fluid. Obviously, as you said, we are waiting for several law enforcement press briefings on this issue as they try to sort out the details here of what exactly happened. And Jessica, just to be very clear, I mean, this is somebody who obviously survived an assassination attempt earlier this year, or just a few months ago. In addition to that, has ramped up security, and that includes both local law enforcement who are on him all the time, are near him, securing perimeters when he is traveling, including in West Palm Beach, as well as Secret Service. So it's unclear exactly how many more Secret Service officers would have been, or agents would have been, on the ground with him at this golf course. I can tell you from my knowledge that generally they travel in different packs on different golf courses. You have people who are traveling behind him. There are people who are traveling in front of him, all in order to secure him. And that has obviously, again, been ramped up since that assassination attempt. And we're still, again, learning the details here of what exactly happened, where exactly Donald Trump was when these shots were fired. But as you said, the campaign is saying that he is safe, and the Secret Service is saying that they have been investigating this as a protective incident. Obviously, that in itself goes to show you the serious nature of how they are taking this. They would not be investigating something that they believed was random and unaffiliated to the former president. Now, what the outcome of that investigation is, I'm sure we'll learn more details from this Secret Service briefing. But right now, clearly, as officials have told John Miller and I, they do believe that Donald Trump was the intended target of this suspect who was armed and essentially on or near the golf course.
All right, Kristen Holmes with the latest reporting there. Please stand by as we get more information. And just reminding everyone that's watching, we are standing by for a press conference from law enforcement that we are expecting within the next half hour. So we're going to keep our eye on that, and we'll bring it to you as it happens. In the meantime, I want to bring in a panel of law enforcement experts: Steve Moore, Charles Ramsey, Jonathan Wackrow, and John Miller here with us. You all are watching this unfold with us. And John, I want to start first with you because I know you've been doing reporting with Kristen Holmes, who we just heard from. Help us understand what you're hearing right now and walk us through what you're learning.
Well, we're waiting for the story to develop, but the initial reports were shots fired while former President Trump was on the golf course. Secret Service returns fire. An individual is chased. Local police do a car stop on the highway. That individual in custody now. He has been identified by police. They know who he is, and they are continuing to investigate him. As Kristen said, reports that gun was recovered in the car. They'll have to determine if he or that gun and that car was connected to this incident. The questions that are emerging are, were the shots fired at President Trump on the golf course, or did part of the Secret Service perimeter team that was searching the area for just such a threat confront a man with a rifle outside the perimeter and exchange shots with him? All of this still coming together. Hopefully, a story that will have crystallized into a second or third version that we'll get at this press briefing. In the meantime, the investigation of this individual in custody is got a lot of fast-moving wheels right now.
Right. This is a story, as you mentioned, that is very much still developing. We have these beginning facts that we do know. Jonathan Wackrow, I want to ask you, as former Secret Service, Kristen mentioned, and we all remember the assassination attempt on former President Trump's life not too long ago, that security has been increased around him. What role would they have played today? How does that factor into all of this?
Well, listen, what we do know is that the Secret Service has said that they've, put more protective assets towards the former president, and those protective assets, most likely include more tactical agents, both from the counter-assault team, sort of the tactical team that will be traveling at all locations with the former president. More counter-sniper teams. So when we think about the open-air space of a golf course, the long-range threat is critically important to cover. So you'd have more counter-sniper teams. But beyond that, if you think about the protective model of concentric rings radiating out from the protectee, the outer perimeter, more counter surveillance agents who are undercover agents that are working that outer perimeter, very specifically designed to identify those types of threats that could be lying in wait along tree lines, along motorcade routes, around any other areas. So again, to Commissioner Miller's point, we don't know if the engagement by Secret Service was from one of the tactical teams, or was it from one of these counter surveillance team members whose job it is actually is to go out and interrupt the chain of attack. So again, we want to see if that crystallizes to take a term from John Miller during this upcoming press briefing. But Jessica, I just want to say that the operations around protective operations around a golf course are very complex for the Secret Service, because you have to think about, unlike a static stage location, you have to move your protective operation across 18 holes of a golf course. It's a lot of real estate to cover, but the Secret Service has put a model in place years ago, understanding that our protectees like to enjoy golf. So the rolling bubble, if you will, was put into place. And as you go along, again, this threat may have been uncovered, who is lying in wait, by one of those advanced agents walking along the tree line. We don't know if there's any aerial surveillance as well that is now typical with protective operations. Again, looking ahead to see identify any threats before they materialize. So a lot of questions yet to be answered, but I think we'll start garnering some of that information with the forthcoming press conference.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very important to ascertain exactly where they encountered this shooter. I want to bring in CNN anchor and correspondent Caitlin Collins, who is joining us as well. And Caitlin, I know you've been following this story as it's unfolding.
Yeah, I mean, Jessica, it's remarkable to see that we are back in this place in just a few weeks, really months after the first attempted assassination of Donald Trump, as we're now trying to learn more about what happened in this situation, and very much still waiting on that briefing from officials to help clear a lot of this up. We know we've gotten great reporting from Evan Perez and John Miller that has been helpful at piecing together what was happening, that Trump was on his golf course when this shooting took place. We're still trying to figure out more about the details here. The one thing that is clear and that's important for everyone to know is that the Trump campaign, when they first confirmed that this had happened near in the former president's vicinity, that they said that he is okay and that he is safe. Obviously, that is the utmost concern that people have hearing this news, given what just happened not long ago in Butler, Pennsylvania. And right now we are looking at Donald Trump's motorcade. He had not yet returned to Mar-a-Lago. This is an important image here because that is that bridge coming across to Palm Beach. If you've been in the area, it's an island, and then it's a bridge to get to West Palm Beach. That's where his golf course is actually located. It's not in Palm Beach where Mar-a-Lago, the beach club, is actually on the ocean front. And so this is the first time that we're actually getting a look at the former president in his motorcade, albeit since we found out that this happened earlier this afternoon, just before 2 o'clock. CNN's Kristen Holmes is also with us and is following all of this. And Kristen, just to let everyone know where the key players are, that's Donald Trump's motorcade. We're watching it closely and waiting to see if he actually speaks to the camera. There's a pool of reporters that go with him. J.D. Vance, the running mate, is also at the airport. He's about to leave Cincinnati. So we do have eyes on both of the members of the Republican ticket. That's Donald Trump's motorcade going over that Palm Beach bridge again. Kristen, we did just hear from Trump himself for the first time in his own words since this happened. What did he have to say?
Appears to be a fundraising email with a link at the very bottom of it, but it is an email talking about what happened.
Kristen, just quickly, I don't think you have your mic on. I just want to make sure everyone can hear whatever the update is from Donald Trump. I know you've been talking to sources, so that's why. But I just want to make sure we can all hear what it was that Trump had to say for the first time since this
Perfect.
happened.
Can you hear me now? I did take it off. Thank you for noting that. Okay, so this is actually a fundraising email that was sent. It has a link at the bottom, but it is Trump responding to what happened, saying, "I am safe and well." It says, "Alert from Trump. There were gunshots in my vicinity, but
before rumors start spiraling out of control, I wanted you to hear it from me first. I am safe and well. Nothing will slow me down. I will never surrender. I will always love you for supporting me. Unity, peace, make America great again. May God bless you, Donald Trump. And then, as I noted, there is a link there to a fundraising page. Just one thing to quickly note, as you were saying about this West Palm Beach Golf Club and going over to Mar-a-Lago, he has been under a lockdown at the West Palm Beach International Golf Club since this incident took place. So this means that that has now lifted, that they believe, Secret Service believes, and law enforcement believe that the position that he is in is now safe enough for him to travel in that motorcade, as you noted, back to Mar-a-Lago. His team has been waiting to see when he would be allowed to go back to his Mar-a-Lago resort. Obviously, right now the situation is incredibly fluid, as we have been reporting, Caitlin.
And keep us updated if we're going to hear from Trump himself. Obviously, I know you've been talking to people around him. I've been talking to people around him. It's a very fluid situation as they're trying to still figure out the details of what exactly happened here and what the officials know as well. And so we are standing by. Thank you, Kristen Holmes, for that. I also want to bring in my colleague, Wolf Blitzer. Wolf, obviously, it wasn't just that long ago that we were in this situation after what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, a different dynamic there, but we're still waiting to hear more from officials about this, Wolf. And I will say we are expecting to hear from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office an update on this, of what happened and what the officials know, based on the reporting that we have from John Miller and from Evan Perez about Donald Trump being on his golf course when someone who was intending to fire at him did so. And we do believe that a person has been apprehended or detained, I should note, by police, as we are still waiting to learn more, Wolf, about this unfolding situation and certainly hear from officials themselves concrete information about what's been happening here.
Yeah, it's going to take some time, clearly, for the Secret Service, the FBI, local law enforcement out in Palm Beach County in Florida to get their act together and be able to do a briefing, but they say it's going to be coming up soon. Of course, we'll have live coverage of that. Caitlin, you spent a lot of time as a White House correspondent. I spent 7 years as a White House correspondent, and I know this is pretty extraordinary. If, in fact, this was, and that's a huge if this was some sort of assassination attempt, 2 of these, and within a matter of weeks, it's a pretty amazing development right now. I spent years covering the White House. I don't remember when there was an assassination attempt when I was a White House reporter, but give us your thoughts of how incredibly amazing this is right now, what's going on.
Well, I just want to say one thing that is clear, and that when I was talking and texting people about this right away, there were a few people on the golf course with Donald Trump. Some people have spoken to him personally since then. Senator Lindsey Graham posted an update about it himself. He called Donald Trump and spoke with him. But Wolf, I will say that ever since the shooting happened, the attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania, when Donald Trump was on stage at his rally, the security around him has been incredibly tight. I mean, they ramped it up. As you know, Wolf, from covering the White House, they already have a very intense level of protection and agents that are always with the President of the United States at all times. And certainly that has always been the case with Donald Trump, but it has been only increased more so. You can see that reflected in his rallies when he's on stage now and they have the protective glass in front of him, or at the Republican convention when he spoke on stage. You saw 2 agents on each side of the stage, which isn't normally the case. They're not normally up there with him, but they have only really increased this. And of course, Wolf, I should note, this is all coming just days after the Washington Post reported late Friday night about the failures on the Secret Service's behalf. They were determined by their own investigation that they were conducting into what went wrong in Butler, Pennsylvania. And now we're in this situation, obviously, and still waiting to get more information. And Wolf, just to piece it together, because Donald Trump spent a lot of time in Palm Beach when I was covering him as a White House reporter. Where his club is on the actual island of Palm Beach. That's where the Mar-a-Lago Beach Club is. That's where you've seen the events, the parties that he has, the meetings. And it is across a bridge that you just saw the motorcade come over, about probably a 15 to 20-minute drive, which is where his golf club is, the Trump International Golf Course. So they are 2 separate locations. And there were times, when Trump was golfing in his first term, Wolf, where reporters could see Trump out on the golf course. Oftentimes, CNN's photographers would be able to spot him with their cameras. That's how we would often find out that he was indeed on the golf course or who he was golfing with. So there is some visibility from the road. Of course, Wolf, we're still trying to learn a lot more about what it was that happened here, where Donald Trump was on that golf course, and of course, most importantly, what's happening with this investigation into who did this, Wolf.
And as you correctly point out, the golf club, the actual golf course, is not at Mar-a-Lago, which is his residence over there. It's at a different location in Palm Beach as we're watching it all unfold. Do we know, Caitlin, if there's always a White House network pool of correspondents who are watching? Hold on one second. The sheriff of Palm Beach County is speaking right now. I want to listen in.
Put out a very urgent bolo asking all law enforcement to look for a specific vehicle with a tag number and an occupant description. We immediately flooded I-95, got on the northbound lane at every exit between Palm Beach and the Palm Beach line and the St. Lucie County line. One of my road patrol units saw the vehicle, matched the tag, and then we set up on the vehicle by using what we do here. We pinched in the car, got it safely stopped, and got the driver in custody. Right now, as we speak, the FBI, Secret Service, Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is at the scene. They've responded there. They'll take over the investigation. Our flatbed tow truck will tow the vehicle back to Palm Beach County, and I have a clear understanding from the investigators there that we actually do have a suspect that they were looking for in Palm Beach County.
Do we know that suspect's name yet?
We know his name, and the FBI clearly knows his name. I am not in a position to release that.
I know that Trump posted on Truth Social that they had recovered an AK-47, I think, near where the shooting incident happened. Anything that you can confirm for us if it's related?
I don't know any more about the scene in Palm Beach County than what you and the media have determined. You know, I hear the same chatter. I think that will become more apparent in the next hour or so. It is my understanding from listening to the investigators there was a very serious incident down there, and I'm sure they'll do some of these here in the near future.
Absolutely. We had heard about a separate accident that occurred at some point on the highway during this incident. Was there another accident involving pedestrians, or not pedestrians, but civilians?
Yeah, there was a serious accident just south of where we had to stop all traffic. We had to clear that vehicle using our bomb detection dog. We actually asked St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. They came down here, Florida Highway Patrol, under the direction of Governor DeSantis, moved in, took over traffic. But unfortunately, before we could get everything stabilized, there was a very serious accident, and they're working it now.
Do you know the condition of those people involved?
I don't. I'm sorry.
We had also heard from a couple of bystanders that they saw a woman and a child whisked away by deputies. We weren't sure if that was related to this incident.
No, we whisked nobody away. There was a lone driver in the vehicle. That driver is now in custody and in the hands of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
What was his demeanor, Sheriff, when you approached the car?
The suspect's demeanor I would describe as having a relatively calm, flat affect. He was not displaying a lot of emotion. Never asked, what is this about? Obviously, law enforcement with long rifles, blue lights, a lot going on, never questioned it.
Was he armed at the time, or he or she?
He was not armed when we took him out of the car. Of course, we didn't do a search, and I would suspect that they're getting a search warrant now. The FBI will take that car. We will transport it for them back to Palm Beach County into their office.
How long was the highway locked down to, drivers on the road? Hour?
Yeah, the I-95 is still locked down. I had to come back here driving southbound and northbound lane where it was blocked off and cut across. So I would tell your viewers, don't get on I-95 northbound.
Do we know? I know I had a lot of people stopping me asking if the turnpike is clear. Is that still open?
The turnpike is clear. To my knowledge, it was not involved in this incident.
Going back to the accident involving the civilians, do we know how many were in that car?
I don't have any information on the civilian crash. It's not related to the investigation, except obviously tangentially because they crashed because of the traffic stop.
Do we know too, I know you don't have much information, but was it two civilians colliding or were they hit by a responding officer?
Yeah, your question about whether there was the nuances of that crash, I don't have the information. I'm sorry.
Anything else to add, Sheriff, that I haven't asked you about?
Well, we're very pleased with the cooperation we've had from the Florida Highway Patrol. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office flew their helicopter in here to assist us, the FBI and Secret Service. You could not ask for better interagency cooperation.
Sheriff, how the complications, after you got that bolo, how quickly do you think the Martin County Sheriff's Office was able to stop that car?
Yeah, the time between when the bolo went out and when we had the vehicle was just no time at all. I just sat down to have my only second cup of coffee of the day, And as soon as I heard the bolo, be on the lookout, heading to Martin, I knew we'd catch the car. I set my coffee down and started getting ready to come out here, and sure enough, we got the car.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sheriff.
You're
I
so
really
welcome.
appreciate
Of
it.
course.
Great to see you.
Sure.
All right, so Caitlin, so there you have the sheriff of Martin County, which is right next to Palm Beach County, the Sheriff William Snyder, updating us that the suspect who was detained was relatively calm at that moment, and apparently they also found an AK-47 assault rifle that may have been involved in this, what he described as this very serious incident right now. And I was going to ask you, Caitlin, as a former White House correspondent, you know, there is always a pool of White House correspondents who travel with the president, cover the president, and they file a report for all of the news media on what they're seeing and what they're hearing. Have we received a White House pool report yet?
Wolf, we haven't, because actually, since Donald Trump is now candidate Trump, he does not always have a pool of reporters with him. He doesn't have the typical pool that you would see with Vice President Harris or with President Biden. And so that is why we're still piecing together more details about what we're learning. Typically, those reporters wouldn't be on the golf course anyway, Wolf, but they would obviously be traveling with him. So there were not reporters with him when you saw that motorcade coming back. But something else that stood out to me from what Sheriff Will Snyder just said there, Wolf, in addition to Trump confirming that they found an AK-47 and that was what was recovered, the sheriff said that they know the person's name that was detained in that car, that image that you could just see. He declined to say it publicly, but he said that car was also cleared using a bomb detection dog, and that vehicle that you saw that is apparently related to this is now in the hands of the FBI. He says that they will help with transporting it for the FBI back to Palm Beach County. It's unclear, obviously, what else is going to happen, but he did say a male driver is in the custody and in the hands of the FBI at this time, Wolf. So that's an incredibly notable confirmation there from the sheriff about where they are in this investigation. Obviously, there's still a lot of questions about, the license plate on that car. Who was that car registered to? What are the details of that? And also where it was in relation to the golf course. When you look at this and where Trump was, I will say, Wolf, the golf course is obviously an incredibly difficult area for the Secret Service to be able to secure. It's an open area. It's shrouded with trees. It's not often easy to get a glimpse of Donald Trump when he's on that golf course, which he, typically it's pretty predictable that he's there. He spends a lot of his time there, and it wouldn't be, unknown to someone that he would be there. You can see his motorcade going in and out when he's on the property. And so I think there's still a lot of questions, and hopefully we are still going to get that briefing from officials in addition to the questions that we just got there of what exactly they do know about what happened here. You can see, Wolf, that the area is closed off. In that area, he was telling people not to get on I-95 as we're waiting to get a more fulsome update, hopefully, Wolf, from officials.
Yeah, we expect that briefing, and you can see live pictures coming in right now to come from the Secret Service, the FBI, and local law enforcement. Jonathan Wackrow, you know a lot about the Secret Service. Give us your sense. How much more information do you think we will get during this upcoming briefing?
Well, listen, I hope that we'll receive a lot more. But, Wolf, when you think about the elements of this attack, right, unlike Butler, where the shooter really was in plain sight for an awful long time, the shooter in this incident, had cover and concealment, or at least some level of cover and concealment along along the wood line. Because of that, you can really start to believe that the attacker actually had some level of a line of sight to where the former president was. Now, were they in the actual range to launch an attack, or were they discovered by some of these counter surveillance or other agents that really constitute the enhanced security measures around the former president? But the key factor here is the accessibility that this attacker had to this secure site. Really, the ease of ingress and egress, and really the thought that there was some level of an escape route. All of this, to me, starts to signal a more elevated attack than something that was just spontaneous, right? You start thinking about the weapon that was utilized, the backpack, the GoPro, the ease of ingress and egress with a specific escape route. So all of these elements, starting to get pieced together, start painting a really bad picture around this attacker and the intent that they had, to attack the former president.
Yeah, it's a very, very serious development indeed. And Caitlin, I know we're getting more and more information all the time, but update our viewers. What else are you hearing?
Yeah, Wolf, as we're standing by for that official press conference that we'll bring to you live when officials are ready, we are hearing from Trump himself in a fundraising email. He posted an update, but also he has been on the phone as well. He has spoken to Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, obviously a close ally of his. Sunlen Serfati is at the White House tracking that down, where I should note, of course, Vice President Harris has been briefed on this issue. She posted an update on this incident, what happened there. Sunlen, what are we hearing from Senator Graham about his conversation with Donald Trump?
Yeah, Caitlin, Senator Lindsey Graham, one of his top allies and friends on Capitol Hill, and Senator Graham said he just spoke with President Trump just moments ago. He says that Trump is in good spirits following today's incident. He adds that Trump is more resolved than ever to save our country. And Graham also noted that he believes he is one of the strongest people he's ever known. So notable that Trump now is working the phones, reaching out to some of his allies and friends, as no doubt they likely will be checking in on him after this incident. Earlier today, we did learn that Vice President Harris and President Biden were both briefed on this incident. Both of them are in D.C. this weekend. They have no public events on their schedule, and they expressed relief that he is safe, relief that he is, saying glad that he is safe after this incident. We all are also, Caitlin, hearing from other members of Congress, asking questions about this incident, most notably recently from Congressman Mike Waltz from Florida. He says that he wants to be briefed by the U.S. Secret Service over this incident this week, and noted, again, hearkening back to Butler, Pennsylvania, that incident in July, the attempted assassination attempt of President Trump. He said, quote, "As I've said before, the July 13th assassination attempt was not an isolated incident. We can take our time investigating as domestic and foreign threats are ongoing." So notable there, at least one member of Congress, Caitlin, calling for a briefing from the U.S. Secret Service next week. Caitlin.
Yeah, and I expect we'll probably hear a lot more of those calls from officials as they're still investigating the first assassination attempt, is trying to figure out what happened here in this moment. Sunlen Serfati, thank you for that report. And Wolf, I'll just note, we were hearing from Sheriff Will Snyder in Martin County. For people who are looking at the map or not sure where that is or wondering why it's the sheriff, Martin County is right north of Palm Beach, right north of West Palm Beach, which is where, of course, Donald Trump's course was. And he was talking about where they apprehended that vehicle and the person that they now have in the custody of the FBI. He was describing this person as having a calm demeanor when they apprehended him. Obviously, still a lot of questions for this person. I imagine that's what officials are doing right now, Wolf, but that is where Martin County is. It is just north of West Palm Beach. If that gives us any indication of the direction this person was going in or what their intentions were there, Wolf.
Yeah, that's significant information indeed. Caitlin, John Miller, our law enforcement analyst, is standing by as well. He's working his sources. You're getting more information. What else are you learning, John?
Well, as we said in the beginning of this reporting, this information is preliminary. It was expected to shift and change. What we've developed is a little bit of a richer picture. Law enforcement originally said shots were fired. They believed at President Trump that Secret Service returned fire. As they're interviewing the agents involved and getting this richer picture, it appears now that as President Trump was golfing at whichever holes he was golfing at, the Secret Service team that was with him is advancing forward of that location so they can clear those areas and double check them. And at some point see this individual with a rifle pointing out from behind a tree line or a wooded area, that they go confront this individual, and that the shooter with the AK-47 or this semi-automatic rifle does not fire shots, but is confronted by the Secret Service, who fires shots at him. He drops the weapon and flees. Witnesses see him get into that car. And the Sheriff Snyder told us, and that's the Martin County Sheriff, not the Palm Beach County Sheriff, that be on the lookout for that vehicle went out. They flooded the highway. If you can still bring it up to the picture of that car stopped at that site, what you see there is a classic vehicle containment technique, or a VCT, where one car gets in front of him, backs into him, the other car gets behind him, and the third car blocks him in. And they come out with those long rifles pointed at him and start to give him commands, which he complied with. And of course, then the search of that car. The FBI will be taking over the investigation into the shooter and into this individual's background, and into what he was doing allegedly in that area with that rifle as the former president was playing golf just a short distance away. And that is probably some of the details that we hope to get more on at this upcoming briefing from local and federal authorities.
I'm sure we'll get a lot more information. And John Miller, what does it say to you that they found near the scene of all of this, at this golf course, an AK-47 style rifle?
So that speaks to, and we've heard reporting. The problem is when people who aren't familiar with guns, eyewitnesses and others describe it. It goes from AR-15 style to AK-47, but we've been told AK-47. Which is a foreign-made rifle. The AR-15 is the all-American gun that, Americans knew from what our soldiers carried in, the last 3 wars. The AK-47 is a Russian-made gun. There are many Chinese-made copies, but it is readily available at weapon stores and favored by some shooters. Remember, Wolf, we have a very brittle time in American politics where tensions are high. We have a previous assassination attempt against former President Trump that we all remember from very recent days. We still have the potential reactions to some of the controversies that have been stirred up just since the debate about a number of issues which could inflame people. But we also have, and this is important to note, the Iranian threat, which is because President Trump, when in office, ordered the killing of Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. The Iranian government had vowed to find a senior government official, up to and including the president, to take revenge on that. And we will also recall, just in the last few days, the arrest of an individual named Merchant from Pakistan who was working with the Iranians to recruit assassination attempts for high-level officials on the ground. So one of the problems in this case, as they try to develop background on this individual, he's not from the area and he's in his late 50s, is who is he? Who has he been in touch with? Where has he traveled? What do his computers and other media say? And they're at the very beginning stages of that, with more than one motive out there in the ether.
And it's interesting, in the last several days, several law enforcement sources, including sources within the Secret Service and the FBI, have told me that as a result of the assassination attempt a few weeks ago in Pennsylvania involving the former president, security has been beefed up, not just for Trump, but for the president, for President Biden, Vice President Harris, and other top officials as well. This is just out of a presumption of caution right now. They're very worried about the attitude right now of what's going on. I'm sure you've heard the same thing.
I have, and this has obviously stretched the Secret Service, but there's a level of intensity around the president, the vice president, who is now a presidential candidate, the former president, who is a presidential candidate, and others. And I think if you look at what happened today, the fact that Secret Service agents were moving forward and managed to interdict this, whatever it was, and again, we're still trying to determine, did this individual get off a shot, or were the shots just at him from the Secret Service, who confront a man near the former president in the woods with a semi-automatic rifle? So we have a lot to learn here.
And presumably we'll start getting some answers very, very soon once the Secret Service briefing begins. And we're told not just Secret Service representatives, but FBI representatives and local police will be at the microphones there briefing us on what's going on. We're standing by for live coverage of that as well. Caitlin, I know you're getting more information as well.
Yeah, Wolf, we're waiting to hear from officials on more on what they know as this investigation is ongoing and what they've learned now that Donald Trump was on the golf course when this has happened. He is now back at his Mar-a-Lago club. I should note we saw his motorcade returning earlier after the club, the golf club where he was, the course had been on lockdown for quite some time. That's why he had not yet gone back to the Mar-a-Lago club, which is, of course, across that bridge inside Palm Beach, about a 15-minute drive away. CNN's Kristen Holmes has been talking to her sources. And Kristen, I understand you're learning more about just kind of the timeline of what happened on the golf course. Walk us through what you and our team is learning.
Yeah, Caitlin, so here's what we were told. We were told that Donald Trump was on the golf course, as we had noted, between holes 5 and 6. He was moving between holes 5 and 6. Now, he has a Secret Service team who is with him, as we have reported. They travel both ahead of him, so an advanced Secret Service, as well as behind him to kind of bookend the former president. So we were told that that team that was ahead of him, a number of holes ahead of him, engaged with this suspect ahead of him, and that is when this incident occurred. Then I'm also told that Donald Trump was then essentially taken away in a golf cart. He was with Steve Witkoff, who is a mega donor as well as an ally of the former president. They were golfing together this Sunday, and then they were taken to the course where, as you noted, they were put on lockdown. So really the news here, and John Miller said part of this, is that that advanced team was the one who first engaged with the suspect that was just a few holes ahead of Donald Trump. He himself was traveling between holes 5 and 6, at least that's what we were told by someone who was briefed on the matter.
Okay, so this is really important because essentially what we are hearing is that Secret Service fired first at this individual as a protective measure, that they essentially, because they walk a few holes ahead of where Donald Trump is on the 18-hole course. Is that right?
Yes, and so they would have engaged with him. They shot at him. We still don't understand if there was an exchange of fire, but we do know that Secret Service did release rounds towards this suspect who was ahead of Donald Trump. Now, this is a very big golf course. That does not take away the significance of this event, but it will show you that they were ahead of him in significant ways when this incident occurred, but still very much in the vicinity of Donald Trump. And obviously, as we have been reporting over and over again, officials do believe the intended target was the former president.
Well, and Kristen, I think part of this is the service and the protection around Donald Trump has certainly been always present, of course, since he became a major candidate back in 2015. But ever since the attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania, I mean, you can see it when you're around him. That, you know, they check everyone's bags, they wand everyone down, that even comes in his vicinity and is around him. But when it comes to securing something like the golf course, as you just noted, it's a pretty large area spread out across several acres in West Palm Beach. I mean, do we have any indication of what this looks like? You know, there are agents with him, but as far as securing the perimeter and making sure, you know, any changes there since what happened in Butler?
Well, what we do know is that overall there have been road closures in West Palm and Palm Beach because of what happened in Butler. That is particularly, though, around his Mar-a-Lago resort. We are unclear if there was any kind of precaution taken around this golf club, which he frequently attends. He frequently holds meetings at. He plays golf at. He even has campaign meetings with his staff there, as well as various lawmakers who come down to Palm Beach to meet with him, as well as donors. So what they did in terms of local PD, Secret Service, to block off this area is very unclear. And as you can see here, it's a heavily wooded area. So you can see in the picture there, they'd have to do a lot to block off that area. There's quite a bit of foliage there, which is what we are understanding. Something came, as John Miller said, from a tree line or that area looking down at the golf course. But just overall, he has had ramped up security at almost every event and at his homes in Bedminster as well as Mar-a-Lago, including those road closures. Just for one example, I was at an event recently where I talked to a number of Secret Service agents who had come from headquarters in Washington, who had volunteered to be there as part of this kind of entourage of Secret Service agents as they've really tried to beef up the security around Donald Trump. I am unclear, and this is one of the things that I've been asking about, when that advance team of Secret Service began traveling with him, because it hasn't always been that there were multiple teams traveling all around him on the golf course. But clearly at this time, I'm not sure if it was related to the assassination attempt or if that's something that has just come into practice in recent years. But he clearly had a team both behind him that whisked him away and nearby enough to him, as well as this team that was scouting out ahead of the holes. And that is the team that we know engaged with the suspect.
Yeah, and that's the question about the perimeter, because, you know, if you're going into Mar-a-Lago or going into the Trump golf course, obviously there's a security perimeter or a security measure at the entrance. You go through magnetometers, they wand people down, they check to make sure they're on the list, but the perimeter is a whole different animal as we're waiting to learn more. Kristen Holmes, I know you'll continue talking to your sources as you hear more, come back to us. And Wolf, obviously, you know, as we've been looking at this, it's just this effort where we're waiting to hear from officials about this. But I've just been talking to several people in Trump's orbit that are stunned that this is a conversation that we're even having again right now, after just living what they went through in Butler, Pennsylvania, with that attempted assassination that we all witnessed on camera where he was on stage. And now, you know, a lot of people who are getting calls or were speaking with Donald Trump today, Wolf, just say that they're shocked that this is, again, what they're witnessing, as they themselves are waiting to hear more from officials about what they know about the person that the sheriff said earlier that they do have in custody of the FBI.
Yeah, and Caitlin, I've been getting texts from friends down in Palm Beach County saying whole areas around Mar-a-Lago have now been cordoned off, and roads have been closed out of to protect the former president and others potentially who are there as well. So it's obviously expanding right now, all of the security concerns, which are enormous, given what's just happened over the past couple hours or so. Charles Ramsey is joining us. He's the former D.C. police chief, former police commissioner in Philadelphia as well. We heard a little bit just now from the sheriff from Martin County, just north of Palm Beach County. What goes through your mind, Chief Ramsey, listening to the information that we're getting, at least so far?
Well, I mean, I'm like everyone else. It is shocking that, you know, just a couple months ago, Butler, Pennsylvania, and now we're having the same conversation again. And you have to be concerned about that sort of thing. Fortunately, this looks like a situation where the security that he has, the Secret Service, were able to intervene at a point in time where there was no direct threat, immediate threat, I should say, to the president. In other words, we don't know if it was a shot fired, but it doesn't sound like any shot was fired by the suspect. But it is something of great concern. One thing, though, I think is really important to note how fast the information was put out on the vehicle. They had a tag number. They put a bolo out, be on the lookout, and police were able to intercept that car pretty quickly and apprehend the driver. So everyone worked very fast, and it was well coordinated. So as far as communications went and so forth. So that's a good part of it. We'll find out more as time goes on after this press conference. But again, it is very concerning. This is the second time, if the information we have now proves to be accurate, not only for the former president, but for all the candidates. I mean, the threats are out there, and you have to really, really take them seriously.
And indeed, an important point you're making, because I've heard exactly the same thing from other law enforcement sources, not just the former president, Donald Trump, but for other candidates right now, including the serving president of the United States and the vice president, Kamala Harris, who is the Democratic presidential nominee. Security is being beefed up dramatically for all of them over these past several days since the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania as well. So we're watching all of this very, very closely. And what intrigues me, the notion that they found an AK-47 style assault rifle. How accurate would that be from a distance on a golf course, Chief?
Well, one of the issues that we have is that we don't know what the distance from that tree line to the actual golf course. I would assume that it's close enough for a person, if he had a scope on that weapon, to be able to fire a round that could have effect. So it obviously is a very dangerous weapon. It's a high-powered weapon. Once we see the weapon to see whether or not this individual had a scope, we don't know anything about this person's background. Does he have military training? John mentioned he's in his late 50s. That's new information. and it's unusual, someone that age to be involved in something like this. But again, a lot of information is emerging. But the fact that the Secret Service was out in front, advancing, and they spotted this individual, that's critically important because, it worked. The enhanced security worked this time.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of investigations, a lot of reviews, commissions of inquiry to make sure that the Secret Service was doing precisely what they're supposed to be doing, protecting the former president of the United States while he's simply out on a Sunday afternoon playing golf right there. So let's stand by for the Secret Service briefing that supposedly will begin momentarily. We're waiting for that. We'll, of course, have live coverage. Chief Ramsey, we'll get back to you. Thank you very, very much. I think we have Randy Kay on the phone for us. She's live for us right now. Randy, you're there outside Mar-a-Lago. Tell us what you're hearing and what you're seeing right now.
Actually, Wolf, we're right outside here at Trump International Golf Course, not too far from Mar-a-Lago. But I can tell you that the law enforcement presence is certainly real here. Just getting here was a challenge. Just speaking to that for a moment, I came from where I was about 25 minutes away, and it took me quite some time to get here, even just getting down Highway 95, which I know the Martin County Sheriff was talking about earlier. It was completely shut down. There's law enforcement presence throughout, and then I was about 2 minutes from this live shot location. We all got pushed into a parking lot that included myself, other cars, people on bicycles, pedestrians, quickly put away into this other, put to the side this other parking lot because that was when the motorcade was just about to move. They were had finally deemed it safe to move the former president from here at Trump International. So we did get some video of that, of the motorcade moving. But Wolf, this has been on lockdown. As you know, the golf course went into lockdown immediately when those shots were fired, those Secret Service firing at that individual who was later apprehended. But I can tell you that it's still very much an active scene here. There's, as you can see, more security outside Trump International Golf Course here. There's a gate to get into the golf course, Wolf. But as you can imagine, a golf course on a Sunday, it could be busy. There's certainly a lot of ground to cover. And when you heard John Miller talking about Secret Service spotting that individual through the trees, or seeing the rifle at least pointing through the trees on that golf course, that is certainly incredible that they were able to do that when it's so difficult just to get inside Trump International. So once again, it does appear that the former president has left here. He is safe. We saw about 10 cars going by. And just getting back, just one note, Wolf, just because I do live here in Florida, Martin County, where they did put out the bolo to apprehend this individual, that is about an hour from the front gate of this golf course. So it's about an hour north. So just to give you some idea of where this all went down in terms of timing and in terms of location, Wolf.
All right, Randy Kay on the scene for us, as she always is. Randy, thank you very, very much. Caitlin, this story has so many questions right now that are crying out for answers. We should be getting some of those answers soon when we have live coverage of that Secret Service briefing. We expect it to begin fairly soon.
Yeah, Wolf, and I do want to read you a new statement that we have just gotten in here at CNN from the FBI about what has happened at Donald Trump's golf course down in West Palm Beach, Florida. I'm quoting the FBI now. They says the FBI has responded to West Palm Beach, Florida, and is investigating what appears to be an attempted assassination of former President Trump. Wolf, it is just that one sentence from the FBI. We are waiting to learn more, but it is absolutely stunning that just a few weeks after what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania with the attempted assassination that we all watched and witnessed on camera during his rally that day, now the FBI says they are investigating what appears to be a second attempted assassination of Donald Trump, Wolf. And it's just, it's remarkable. They're still investigating the first attempted assassination, and now here they are on scene in Palm Beach, Florida, dealing with what they say appears to be a second one, Wolf.
Yeah, we all remember the video from that first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, when that bullet grazed the president's ear. We remember the blood coming out of the president's ear. In this particular case, the president is fine. He was not hit. He's safe. And that was immediately released by his campaign in a formal statement. And thank God for that. But we're watching all of this so closely right now. An attempted assassination, a second attempted assassination. And that's from the FBI. That's what they're saying. Are they giving in their statement, Caitlin, any additional explanation of why they're calling it an attempted assassination?
No, Wolf, but this reminds me of exactly what happened that day in Butler, Pennsylvania, when there were so many questions initially after Trump was rushed off stage. Obviously, we all saw the blood on his face immediately after, but there were questions about what the FBI was officially calling it. I mean, we knew what we had witnessed, but there were questions about what had happened, and then it was later on when they, chillingly referred to it as that for the first time in print. This is now the second time that we are seeing them refer to it as what they believe and what they are investigating, what appears to be, is the language they use, the word appears to be an attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Obviously something that his team is also still reeling from. Kristen Holmes has been talking to her sources about this. And Kristen, what more are you hearing from officials? Because obviously in a weekend like this, Donald Trump is not often surrounded by a ton of his political team. We know Steve Witkoff, who is a big donor of his, who was with him every day at his trial here in New York, for example, and spends a lot of time with him. He was there with him on the golf course, but it's not like a typical, traveling event where Trump has a ton of political team around him. What are they saying about this new statement from the FBI?
Well, look, they are convinced that he was the target. They have been convinced. We were told by officials that they believe Donald Trump was the target. And clearly now the FBI is saying on the record that they are investigating what appears to be a second assassination attempt of the former president. But there are a lot of questions here, Caitlin, about how exactly this person would have had access to not just the golf course itself, but the information that Donald Trump would have been at the golf course. They would have had to have been looking at him closely on his schedule. I can tell you, just for example, last week, he bounced around between Trump Tower in New York, Bedminster, and Mar-a-Lago, and that was all in between various campaign events. People who are even some of his closest allies didn't know that he was currently at Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach, let alone that he was out on the golf course today. It's incredibly hot in Florida, not clear that it would be a golfing day, but this is something that his campaign is already asking questions about. How did this person potentially have the kind of information of his whereabouts that even some of his closest staff didn't know where he was? Now, I've also talked to a number of people. Just a reminder, they did move campaign headquarters down to West Palm Beach. So a lot of those aides and advisors do live down there. But as you noted, it's not that they were with him at every second. He is out there. This is not a campaign event. This is not a working day. He is out there with not only a mega donor, but a friend of his, Steve Witkoff, golfing, as we see him do often. But this is already starting to raise more and more questions as to how exactly this could happen again. And it's not, again, just about the fact that this person was able to get in the vicinity of Donald Trump in the woods or the wooded area near his golf course to even be close enough to engage with Secret Service, who is ahead of Donald Trump, but also just the idea of his whereabouts and how this person could have gotten that kind of level of information, what they were tracking of the former president. This is something that maybe Secret Service will discuss in this press conference, but there are a lot of questions around right now what happened, in particular now that this has been confirmed on the record that this appears to be a second assassination attempt. As you said, his team is still reeling from what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. In fact, they have been talking about that pretty much nonstop with me at various junctures in this campaign since it happened. What we saw there, the security measures that were in place now, how that changed the dynamic with security both on the ground, on the plane. They have less seats on the plane now for campaign because they have so much more security. So there have been a number of enormous changes that have happened since Butler, but yet we are now looking at, again, as the FBI says, what appears to be another assassination attempt on the former president.
Yeah, and obviously the campaign office is also down there in West Palm Beach. And I'm being told by a person familiar, they have now sent the staff home, but they had to lock down the campaign office when this happened earlier this afternoon, I'm told, because so many people were in the building, so many staffers were in the building, and that police officers did come, West Palm Beach police, I believe, did come to secure the Trump campaign office that is down there. I want to note, just for everyone watching, we are waiting to get a briefing from the Secret Service, from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office right now. That's what you're looking at on the right-hand side of your screen. We've seen officials coming in and out. We are expecting them to start any moment now as we are watching this and witnessing what is now, according to the FBI and what they're investigating, what they say appears to be the second attempted assassination of Donald Trump in just 2 months. It was July 13th that someone tried to kill Donald Trump while he was on stage in Butler, Pennsylvania at a rally. And just remarkable that even though obviously he is safe here, this was not based on what we know so far, what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, but still just a remarkable moment. Kristen, what more can you tell us about this campaign office down there in West Palm Beach and where it's situated? And is that the headquarters exactly where most of the team operates out of? What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's a couple of separate different areas that they operate off of. Obviously, Donald Trump himself is always at Mar-a-Lago. His senior staff and advisors have offices that are in West Palm Beach, but also at Mar-a-Lago as well. Not offices, but they are often meeting with the former president there. We know that over the last several weeks that their staff, particularly junior aides to former President Donald Trump, who are working 7 days a week. There are 50-some days left until the election, and it is a constant sprint for this campaign. So it's unsurprising that there are people inside of that office that is in downtown-ish West Palm Beach, so probably a roughly 12-minute drive from Mar-a-Lago, and that there are a number, as I said, a number of senior aides and advisors as well as junior staffers who have all moved down to the West Palm Beach area. And just a reminder that in the days after the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, there was a memo sent out by campaign managers Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita essentially telling staffers not to go into the office, not just in West Palm Beach, but around the country, just to keep them safe. There was a heightened amount of insecurity and anxiety among people who were close to former President Donald Trump. While they did not believe that any of these offices were intended targets, law enforcement did secure all of these offices around the country, particularly one outside of Washington, D.C. and in West Palm Beach, Florida, to make sure that those staffers were safe. They were told to work from home at that time. I will tell you that there's been a lot more ease after Butler in the recent weeks. People felt like that security had really ramped up, that they felt safer, particularly with that increased Secret Service presence. And just a reminder, it's not just the Secret Service presence. We've also seen an increased local law enforcement presence. In front of Mar-a-Lago, many of the streets are blocked off. There are highway exits that are at times blocked off to Palm Beach. If he is traveling in and out of the area, it's not particularly happy for some of the people who live there who have complained to me about it, but we do know that those are some of the increased security measures that they have taken. So it's not surprising that that office was shut down or at least searched and put on lockdown the same way that the Trump International Golf Course was, just out of an abundance of security, because that had been a very big concern of the campaigns as they were facing the aftermath of that Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt.
And Kristen Holmes, thank you for that. We are seeing officials start to get to the microphones. Let's listen in and see what they're saying.
You guys want to come on up? Okay, guys, you ready? Little rules of the road like we always talk about ahead of time. We are going to give you, when I say we have a representative from the FBI, from the Secret Service, from the State Attorney's Office. We are going to give you everything we have. Everything. All right? So when we get done, think about your questions, because we're not going to take a lot. And keep them to the information that you heard. Don't get into what ifs, and because of this, we're not going to go there. All right? So keep that in mind, and we'll be good. So here we go. All right. 1:30 this afternoon, call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. and we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the witness that witnessed the incident, flew him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off. So that's what we know about the investigation. We have somebody in custody right now that is a potential suspect. We got a little bit more work to do on it, but as we usually do, as soon as we decide that we're going to book him into the county jail and the charges that he's going to be booked into, we'll get those to you and we'll get a picture of him and we'll get you his background. So now I'm going to turn it over to the representative of the Secret Service, and he's going to make a brief statement.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I first want to thank all of our law enforcement partners, to include the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office and the Martin County Sheriff's Office, for their involvement today. Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed following a protective incident shortly before 2 p.m. on Sunday at Trump International Golf Club at West Palm Beach. The U.S. Secret Service personnel opened fire on a gunman located near the property line, and this matter is under investigation. I'll turn it over to my partners over at the FBI.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Veltri. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office. The FBI has assumed the role as the lead federal law enforcement agency in the investigation of the incident that occurred earlier today at Trump International Golf Course here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We've deployed a number of resources, including investigative teams, crisis response team members, bomb technicians, and evidence response team members as well. What we need right now is for the public to avoid the area around the golf course. We will continue to support this investigation with the full resources of the FBI, alongside our partners with the United States Secret Service and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, as well as Martin County Sheriff's Office and state and local law enforcement. I would ask that if anyone has any information that may assist with this investigation, to contact our tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at tips, that's TIPS, .fbi.gov. Thank you.
David?
Hi, I'm Dave Ehrenberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County. I want to thank Sheriff Bradshaw and our partners at the local, state, and federal levels. I'm here because our prosecutors are currently working up warrants and a motion for pretrial detention for the suspect. In that way, he will be kept in custody. But our filing of these warrants and charges at the state level does not preclude federal charges that could be coming. But in the meantime, it looks like the warrants and the pretrial detention motion will happen first. And again, I want to thank the cooperation we've had with our federal partners and at the local level. And thank you all for being here today.
Okay, we're going to make these pictures available to you. It'll show you a picture of the backpack and the rifle. And there's also a GoPro on the fence there where he was intent on filming what was going on. Even though we're going to have to secure a couple of areas around the golf course here, the public doesn't need to panic. We know that we got a post office, a library, and a school down the street. So we'll make it convenient for you to get to all the places you need to go, get your kids to school, get them over here to the post office or wherever else you need to go. It's safe. There's no more danger here, and we'll make it very convenient for you. So having said that, we're going to take a very limited amount of questions, and you can direct them to who you want to answer the question.
Sheriff, did this individual make any statements as he was being detained?
No statement right now as far as his involvement in the incident, and there's further investigation to be completed.
What was his demeanor like?
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe the Secret Service gentleman answered. I misunderstood, or couldn't quite understand. So there was a rifle. So one of your agents saw on the golf course saw a rifle pointing through a fence. Was it a chain link? Okay, so he saw that, the agent.
That is correct. Yes.
And the president or the former president was on the course behind him. How close?
It was 1 or 2 holes behind. That because the bubble moves through the golf course, so our agents will get there first, clear it. He noticed that the rifle was pointed out. Our agents engaged. We are not sure right now if the individual was able to take a shot at our agents, but for sure our agents were able to engage with the subject. I don't know that.
Doesn't appear so.
Is there a moment?
Yep. Now,
how far away was the president? How far away was Donald Trump when this gentleman was caught and stopped?
Probably between 300 and 500 yards, but with a rifle and a scope like that, that's not a long distance.
For the Secret Service, how far was your agent from the would-be assailant?
That I'm not sure right now. We're still looking into it.
Reports of that 4 rounds of ammunition were fired. Were all 4 of those from your agent?
That is correct. 4 to 6. We're not sure yet.
Was there a long distance? Explaining why?
Yes.
Thank you.
And
yes, ma'am.
WBF 25. I was wondering what how this was able to happen, and for future reference, is there any up security in the golf course?
I didn't hear all that. Say that one more time and talk up a little bit.
So how was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any up security in the golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery. So when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right? And at this level that he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. But because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter. But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
Which direction was the shrub where he was? North, south? I guess east, west, and south is the road?
The layout of the golf course, you've got 3 holes, 5, 6, and 7. Right? One of them runs parallel to Summit Boulevard. One of them runs parallel to Congress. And he was in an area in the shrubbery where he could see both holes. So the president was another hole back, which means he's about between 400 and 500 yards away.
So he was on the golf course?
Oh, he's on the golf course, yeah, but he's back a ways.
For the Secret Service, have you guys changed at all the way that you guys are protecting former President Donald Trump? This is now a potential second attempt on him. Can you just elaborate on how things have changed and what you make of all this?
Yes, the threat level is high. We have increased the amount of assets that we've supported, so we live in danger times. So yes.
Okay. We're done with questions right now. There's really nothing more for us to add. I just want to tell you, the Secret Service and the FBI and the State Attorney's Office have been fantastic to work with. And I can tell you right now, our agency with this real-time crime center was fabulous. That's how we got the guy. We started out with, we don't know anything, to where we had a tag, we had a vehicle description, and we got an area where we saw the person. So be proud of your law enforcement. All right. Thanks, folks. We'll get back to you.
All right, so there you have the Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw updating us. Caitlin, we learned some important information about this suspect. He was presumably, they said at one point, between 300 and 500 yards away. Trump was playing golf at his golf course there. He was apparently walking between hole number 5 and hole number 6. and the suspect with this AK-47 style rifle, and we did learn it did have a scope. So it, even though it was 300 to 500, he was 300 to 500 yards away from Trump. With the law enforcement, we just heard from this briefing that is not a far distance for this type of AK-47 with a scope, which is pretty chilling when you think about that. So we got a little bit more information there, and the suspect is in custody. We heard from the Palm Beach County attorney, Dave Ehrenberg, saying they're working now on some state charges, but there will be presumably federal charges as well.
Yeah, I mean, Wolf, the sequence of events that officials just laid out is nothing short of stunning. What you heard from the Palm Beach County Sheriff, what you heard from Secret Service there, and they basically confirmed CNN's reporting, but also gave us a few more details, which is that a witness was later was able to identify the person that they have taken into custody. They referred to him as a potential suspect. They said that he fled from the bushes outside of Trump's course after the Secret Service had engaged him. And what they said was that the Secret Service basically, when Trump is golfing, they travel one or two holes ahead of him in a protective measure, and a Secret Service agent was able to see the barrel of the rifle, that AK-47 that they later found in the bushes, sticking out from those bushes, and then engaged with this person who then dropped the gun apparently and ran and jumped into what they said was a black Nissan. A witness was later able to confirm that, yes, the person they later apprehended in that Nissan was the person they saw running out of the bushes. And Wolf, they said that they found in the bushes not only that AK-47 gun with the scope, as you noted there, but also two backpacks and a GoPro that the sheriff then followed up and said was attached to the fence. So the person apparently intent on recording whatever was happening there in that. And it's just remarkable that an agent was able to see that rifle barrel to engage with this person before Donald Trump came up to that hole on this golf course. They said the Secret Service did exactly what they should. That person is in custody. And a remarkable statement there when a reporter asked the Secret Service official who was on hand about security measures being ramped up after what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. And he talked about the number of protectees that they now have in their custody and said simply, we live in dangerous times, Wolf.
Very dangerous times indeed. And I've heard repeatedly from law enforcement sources that their fear is the threats are only going to continue as this political campaign goes on. We have no idea what if any, motive this suspect that they've apprehended now may have had, but there's a lot of concern given the fact that this is now what the FBI publicly describes as a second assassination attempt against the former president of the United States. Charles Ramley, Chief Ramsey, give me your thoughts on what we just heard.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of information that came out. 1:30 is when shots were fired by Secret Service. It's still unclear whether or not the individual was able to get a shot off or not. Doesn't sound like they were, unless they were firing at the Secret Service. But the Secret Service definitely saw him. And you had a witness that actually saw an individual run out of the shrubbery, get into a car, and had the presence of mind to take a photograph of the car and the tag. I mean, without that, this person probably would still be out there, and police would be searching for him. So that witness really deserves an awful lot of credit. We know that it was an AK-47 firearm, rifle with a scope, which makes it even more dangerous than it would normally be, and that the FBI is the lead now on this. And that information from the FBI that came out now officially saying this looks like a attempted assassination. Again, just 2 months ago, we were talking about this at Butler, Pennsylvania, and here we are again. This individual was equipped and ready to film, probably live stream maybe, who knows? That's the world we're in right now. And I think the Secret Service said it right. These are dangerous times right now, and it's straining resources of Secret Service, U.S. Marshal Service. We never talk about the Marshal Service, but the Marshal Service resources are strained for protecting individuals that don't fall under Secret Service protection. So these are just very, very dangerous times. That perimeter was not secure. In the future, I imagine it will be, but still, that Secret Service agent was able to spot the barrel of the gun and prevent a tragedy from occurring.
All right, stand by, Chief Ramsey. Andrew McCabe is with us as well, former Deputy Director of the FBI, CNN law enforcement analyst. We're showing our viewers on the right side of the screen some pictures that they just released at this news conference. The backpack, 2 backpacks that were found, including a GoPro that was in one of the backpacks, including this AK-47 with a scope. That means they can target somebody from a distance, a far distance. An AK-47 has an enormous range, and with a scope, you can actually target someone for assassination. The FBI is now calling this, Andrew, an attempted assassination. It appears to be, in their words, I'll give you exactly what they said, what appears to be an attempted assassination of Trump. This would be the second time in the past 2 months of an attempted assassination of the former president of the United States. Give us your thoughts, Andrew.
Well, it is definitely an attempted assassination, Wolf. I mean, we'll have to see what the suspect ultimately says, and if the FBI investigation is successful in unearthing some evidence of his motives. But I think it's pretty fair to say, we know likely what he was trying to accomplish there, hiding in the bushes outside the golf club. As Chief Ramsey mentioned, once again, this is the second time that we have averted a disaster, and really we got really lucky on 2 counts this time. One is, of course, that the Secret Service officer noticed the barrel of a gun sticking through that chain link fence. And imagine this, you're standing on a golf course, you're looking to the fence. Behind the fence is all kinds of different shrubbery and bushes and trees and things like that. That barrel of the gun typically would blend right into that background. So what an amazing kind of heads up, ever vigilant approach by that Secret Service officer. And then the second huge break was the witness, a witness who happens to see the guy running out of the woods and has the presence of mind to take a photograph of the vehicle he gets in and the license plate on the vehicle. So that's what enabled the very quick response by law enforcement to identify him on 95 heading north, fleeing the area, and of course, taking him into custody. As for the AK-47, I mean, it's a very capable rifle. It shoots a fairly large, a bullet that the AK-47 shoots is larger and more powerful than what we normally see in the weapons that are used at mass shooting events. The weapon that was used at Butler, the AR-15, the bullet from the AK-47 is about similar to a 30 caliber round, which is the round that's used by law enforcement snipers. So could it travel 500 yards accurately? Absolutely. The scope helps the shooter shoot accurately. It's going to take a little bit of training and practice to get somebody to deliver a round like that accurately at that distance, but certainly within the realm of possibility. We don't know if this individual had any law enforcement or a military background, or if he's got any shooting or marksmanship in his background, but those are all things that the FBI will be looking into. Because we have a live shooter, unlike Butler, this is a case that's going to be, and an investigation that's going to be driving towards prosecuting this individual successfully and putting him in jail for a long time. So you can bet that we'll see search warrants executed later on this evening. We'll see a lot of FBI folks at his residence, maybe at his work. You'll see that vehicle impounded and searched, and they are going to be looking for all of the pieces of evidence that might indicate planning, motive, and whether or not any other individuals knew about what he was doing and may have helped him plan or anything like that.
In addition to the scope on that AK-47 rifle, which was intended, according to the FBI, for an assassination of the former president, the fact that they found this GoPro equipment in one of the backpacks as well suggests to me, and I wonder, Andrew, if it suggests to you that this suspect had some political motive, wanted publicity, wanted to get a lot of exposure for what was going on.
It certainly indicates to me that he was looking for exposure. What we've learned through so many of these mass shootings and episodes of political violence, sometimes it can be very hard to identify a specific political motive. For instance, case in point is the Butler shooter, who at this point we still have not unearthed a very clear, clearly he was trying to kill Donald Trump, but a strong ideological reason for doing so, they haven't been able to identify that yet. So we'll see if we find that here. But no question, Wolf, you're absolutely right. The presence of the GoPro is an effort to preserve the images of this attack so that the shooter could use that for some purpose in the future, either to pump up his own image and glorification online, things of that nature. We know that mass shooters do that a lot. It's very important to them to communicate their success, their attack online. May have just been that, or it may have been some ideologically motivated, politically motivated act. Right now, it's super early in the investigation, but those are definitely the things we're going to be looking to hear from the FBI as they learn more.
And is the FBI, Andrew, and you're former deputy director of the FBI, is the FBI now in charge of this investigation, not the Secret Service, not the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office? It's the FBI which is in charge. Is that right?
They absolutely are, Wolf. As you know, under Presidential Directive 12333, the FBI has primary responsibility for investigating any acts of terrorism here in the United States. This would certainly be considered an act of terrorism, possibly domestic terrorism, although, again, we'll wait and see as we get more details about this shooter. But absolutely, the FBI would be the lead agency. Now, it doesn't mean they'll do it by themselves. They clearly will work very closely with the Secret Service and also with the Palm Beach County and Martin County Sheriff's offices. But you will see the Bureau kind of taking the lead role on the execution of search warrants, the collection of evidence, the preservation of evidence. And then I would expect pretty soon you're going to hear about Southern District of Florida prosecutors weighing in as to whether or not this person will also be charged at the federal level.
Yeah, I suspect that will happen. And we did hear Dave Ehrenberg, the Palm Beach County attorney, suggesting that there would be probably state charges, local charges, as well as eventually federal charges as well. I suspect that's what's going on right now. Our Andrew McCabe, everyone else, stand by. Caitlin, we're getting a lot of information right now to digest, and I presumably believe in the next few minutes and hours, we're going to get a whole lot more.
Yeah, Wolf, that was a remarkable update that we got from officials, and that detail that a Secret Service agent who was advancing Donald Trump on the golf course was able to spot the barrel of that rifle poking through the bushes and was able to protectively fire a shot at that person inside the bushes before Donald Trump got to that hole on the golf course. What you're looking at here is 2 backpacks and a GoPro attached to the fence that officials found in the area of that bushes that the individual fled after the Secret Service had an exchange with him. Wolf, we are continuing to learn more as we are watching all of this. I do want to note we have heard from J.D. Vance. He just posted on Twitter saying that he spoke to Donald Trump before this information of what the FBI is now saying appears to be an attempted second assassination. J.D. Vance says, quote, "I'm glad President Trump is safe. I spoke to him before the news was public, and he was amazingly in good spirits. Still much we don't know, but I'll be hugging my kids extra tight tonight and saying a prayer of gratitude." We'll continue with our live coverage of this, as the FBI puts it, an apparent attempted second assassination attempt of Donald Trump. We're learning more from our sources and from officials. We're going to take a quick break and be right back.
For 30 years, I've been saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up. But you know, I can't.
Carver, Saturday, October 5th on CNN.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can it keep me warm when I'm cold?
Wait, no, I'm always hot.
Sleep Number does that.
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer? Sleep Number does that. Your ideal firmness and effortless comfort all night.
Can it help us sleep better and better?
Please.
Sleep Number does that. 9 out of 10 couples report better sleep. Save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition smart bed, plus free home delivery when you add an adjustable base. Shop now at a Sleep Number store near you.
Did I read this? Did I get eggs? Where are my keys?
Don't wait while memory and thinking issues pile up. These issues may seem like normal aging, but could be due to a buildup of amyloid plaques in the brain. Amyloid can build up over time. The sooner you talk to your doctor, the more options you may have. Visit amyloid.com for additional information.
When it comes to Amgen's life-changing medical breakthroughs, every second counts. But without investment, those breakthroughs are often paused. Citi's seamlessly connected banking, markets, and services businesses deliver global financial solutions. so our client can keep investing in innovations for patients around the world without pause. For the love of moving our clients forward, for the love of progress.
Is your dog telling you they may have allergic itch? Apoquel is the #1 treatment for allergic itch that veterinarians have trusted for over 15 million dogs. And it starts working in just 4 hours.
Do not use in dogs with serious infections. May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations or pre-existing cancers and serious infections. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs less than 12 months old.
Ask your vet for Apoquel, now available in a tasty chewable.
I have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Thanks to Skyrizi, I'm on my way with clearer skin. 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to.
Nothing on my skin means everything. Ask your dermatologist about Skyrizi. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Were you worried the wedding would be too much?
Nah. Another destination wedding? We just got back from her sister's in Napa. Who gets married in Napa? My daughter. Who gets married someplace more expensive? My other daughter! Cancun, Jamaica! Why can't they use my backyard?
With Empower, we get all our financial questions answered, so we don't have to worry.
Can we get out of here?
I thought you'd never ask.
Join 18 million Americans and take control of your financial future with a real-time dashboard and real-live conversations.
Empower. What's next?
I feel like I lose track of at least $500 a month.
Maybe that's because you still use spreadsheets. Haven't you heard of Rocket Money?
No, but you're probably going to cut me off and tell me about it.
It's an app that automatically tracks your spending in real time, lowers your bills, and finds and cancels sneaky subscriptions.
Sign me up.
Stay on track with your finances and download Rocket Money today.
Louis! Cut! More mud! Action! Louis! Louis! Cut! Mud on her face! Louis!
Okay, everybody, that's lunch.
Mud mask?
No. No. No.
Compare hotels in the Hotels.com app.
Lysol knows little hands deserve big protection. That's why we're donating science kits to schools in need and helping teachers keep their classrooms protected by killing 99.9% of germs. Lysol, here for healthy schools.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
TV on the Edge premieres next Sunday at 9 on CNN.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome back to CNN. I'm Caitlin Collins alongside my colleague Wolf Blitzer. This is CNN's special coverage. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. We are continuing our breaking news live coverage after the FBI says it is investigating what appears to be an attempted assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. We are told the former president is safe after shots were fired in his vicinity while he was golfing at his club in West Palm Beach, Florida. That's just about a 15-minute drive from where his Mar-a-Lago club is in Palm Beach, Florida. Moments ago, we got an account from the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office detailing how all of this unfolded, Wolf, and it is quite stunning.
It's stunning and very detailed. In fact, very, very revealing. Law enforcement officials saying a person has been detained in connection with this incident that occurred at the Trump International Golf Club around 1:30 p.m. Eastern earlier this afternoon. U.S. Secret Service agents fired gunshots at the suspect, who they believe was armed and intended to target former President Trump. An AK-style long-arm rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks, and a GoPro camera were recovered. Let's go to our panel right now and get Charles Ramsey's assessment of what's going on. The fact that there was a scope, Chief Ramsey, it says to me, it explains, I think in part, why the FBI has concluded this appears to have been a second assassination attempt against Trump.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, clearly, in my mind anyway, that's the appropriate classification for this particular incident. We're just fortunate. We're very lucky. We were lucky in July in Butler, Pennsylvania, and again today. But luck only goes so far. And so everyone has to be incredibly vigilant, enhance security, not just for the former president, but for all of the candidates, because we're just in an environment right now where you have a lot of unstable people who apparently are not afraid to try to actually harm someone. So we're very fortunate that the Secret Service agent was able to spot this and able to take immediate action and prevent a tragedy from occurring.
And that Secret Service agent spotted the barrel of a rifle sticking out from those trees near that golf course right there, and that's when shots were fired at the suspect, and eventually another individual saw what was going on and took some pictures of the vehicle that the suspect was using, the license plate, and eventually the suspect was captured in Martin County, just north of Palm Beach County, not very far away. Jonathan Wackrow, the fact that there was a GoPro camera that was right near that fence, near those backpacks that this suspect had over there, what does that say to you?
Well, listen, Wolf, I think that a lot of these elements speak to an elevated level of sophistication by this shooter, right? So the GoPro camera was the intent here to live stream this attack. By the fact that we saw those, we heard reporting that, and I believe we heard it during the press conference as well, that the backpacks contained ceramic plates. Again, this was really setting up a firing position. The shooter probably intended to engage directly with Secret Service agents at one point. I think the Secret Service structure, though, the protective methodology, by putting out agents in advance of the protectee during their golf operations to really flush out this type of threat along the edges of the fairways really proved successful. This is a model that the Secret Service has applied to these types of activities for a long time. I mean, dating back to, I believe, the Bush and Clinton administrations, where putting agents anywhere from 75 to 150 yards in advance, again trying to expand out that protective bubble around the protectee just for this very reason. But it's difficult. I mean, they're out there flanking the protectee for a long time. This person obviously set up their location. They had a level of cover and concealment to launch this attack. They most likely had a line of sight from that fence line back into the fairway. That's disturbing. And more troubling is the accessibility, the ease of ingress and egress by this attacker. They had that escape route. The critical factor that we heard during the press conference is the witness. They saw the suspect running away, getting into the vehicle. And I think Andy McCabe said, very smartly, the person took out their phone, took a picture of the car, and then got the license plate. The communication with federal, state, and local law enforcement entities through the real-time crime center got that information out almost instantaneously. And utilizing license plate readers, they were able to track the direction of the vehicle, make the vehicle stop, and get the suspect in custody without incident. So this is a real big success for law enforcement, and it all centers around the coordination, the rapid coordination of information and dissemination to all stakeholders. We heard that during the press conference. It was great to see everybody reassuring the public that there's no additional danger and that all stakeholders within the law enforcement and prosecutorial community were represented there.
And you can see how close this golf club is to Interstate 95, a major highway going all through the state of Florida, all the way up the East Coast as well. Caitlin, go ahead.
While we're looking at this, I just want to keep this image up because you're seeing Trump International Golf Course right here. We're highlighting hole 5 and hole 6 because that's where we believe Trump was getting close to when the agents were walking ahead of him. And what's remarkable about this is they were talking about the 3 roads that are the access points. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is right there to your top right, a little bit above where hole 5 is. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and the jail actually backs up to Donald Trump's golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida. And just to give you a sense of what we were looking at on the ground and how quickly officials were able to move here, and they put out that be on the lookout alert for the person that the witness luckily was able to see a person leaving the bushes, emerging and getting into a black car and then driving, which they apprehended on I-95 just north of Palm Beach County, and what we're looking at here on this image. And so, John Miller, when you look at this and what we've heard from officials, they would not say outright that they have a suspect in custody, but the sheriff said, John Miller, that they have a potential suspect in custody. And so when that is the case and they have someone that they are obviously questioning, what we were told earlier is that this person has not made any statements yet, but they did describe a calm demeanor earlier when we were hearing from the Martin County Sheriff about actually apprehending this person and turning them over to the FBI. What does this look like behind the scenes right now?
Well, he is definitely a suspect, and he is definitely in custody. And all the qualifiers that law enforcement uses, potential suspect, person of interest, once the state's attorney took the podium at the press conference and said, we are preparing charges and we are preparing for a detention hearing where they're going to argue that this suspect is dangerous and a flight risk, that means he is on his way to being charged here. Some of the mechanics behind that, Caitlin, were there was that witness on the scene that we've all talked about. He snapped that picture. He saw that person, and there's a Secret Service agent who may have confronted him and seen him as well. But that witness was brought to the scene, and they did what we call a show up, where, you know, they have him in a vehicle where he can look out at the person in custody, and he's asked, is that the person you saw? And he answered in the affirmative, we are told by law enforcement sources, as he did that show up. And they then took him into custody, impounded that car, and so on. There are, you know, two different stories in the forefront here. One, as Jonathan Wackrow really well explained, is a combination of old-fashioned police work, shoe leather, grab a witness, combined with modern technology. Here's a picture, here's a plate, put it into the LPR, license plate reader system, look for the first hit. It hits on 95. RTCC, the real-time crime center, is spinning the registered owner of that car, who it belongs to. All of this is happening rapidly, and Martin County, which hasn't waited, it has already flooded 95 looking for that car heading south with units, then does that vehicle containment technique. They block the car in on three sides, come out with long guns. And when the sheriff describes, the Sheriff Snyder of Martin County describes his calm demeanor, we have to put that in context. When the suspect gets out of that Nissan vehicle, he is looking at multiple AR-15s and handguns pointed at him from multiple directions in this vehicle containment technique where they've blocked him in on three sides. So he can be nothing but calm. And he was compliant with the commands they gave him, and then he was taken into custody. So a lot went right today, and a lot came together.
Well, and Andrew McCabe, when you look at this, and Wolf, I was just thinking about this, when you look at what we're hearing from officials, and you see those two pictures there of the backpacks that were left at the scene that they found inside these bushes, on the right side of your screen on the left, that's a GoPro camera, officials said, that was mounted on the fence, and then two bags as well. Andrew McCabe, when you're an investigator and you're looking into that, I mean, it clearly speaks to some kind of premeditation here of what they're looking into when they're talking to this suspect who was in the bushes.
There's no question, Caitlin. This, you know, as Jonathan mentioned this a little bit earlier, this whole setup indicates a very high level of pre-planning. And that is done because this person, whoever he is, he clearly had the capacity to engage in that sort of structured and organized thought, which is a big piece of this, because that will undermine, and that can undermine a lot of different defenses at trial. So you have someone who had the wherewithal, the financial ability, and the kind of cognitive ability to go out and acquire these things, the weapon, the backpacks, the ceramic plates. If those are in fact ceramic plates are used to augment a bulletproof vest to make it resist actually high-powered rifle bullets. So this is someone who went through a lot of effort to really plan this out. I think we also have to remember that they somehow knew where to go. They had some indication maybe that Trump was playing golf on this day. We don't know that for a fact yet, but that's something that investigators are going to be looking for. Obviously picked this location as one of tactical advantage, likely because of the cover provided by the foliage and the bushes that he was hiding himself with. Probably had some advanced knowledge of how the golf course is laid out and where the former president would be proceeding from one hole to another. So this is all a very high degree of planning, which is great evidence for the prosecution. And finally, just recovering these backpacks with the stuff in them and the vehicle that he was driving in when he was arrested. You have a gold mine of evidence here, forensic evidence that will tie, likely, this person they arrested to that backpack in that place with the weapon at the same time. So all those little pieces come together. They all seem to be likely lining up in a very damning way for this person. And that's what the investigators and the prosecutors will be looking at next.
And Andrew, a very quick question before we let you go. They said at the briefing that the suspect with his rifle, the AK-47 with a scope, was between 300 and 500 yards away from Trump. But then they said that is not a far distance given the capability of this AK-47 with a scope. You agree with that that's not a far distance?
It's not a far distance. The rifle is definitely capable of it. The scope makes it easier to do. It's still going to require some degree of training and practice on the part of the shooter, but that's not hard to do in this country, right? A lot of people engage in that sort of stuff, shooting sports and things like that. So, yeah, this is definitely a possible shot for a decently trained marksman. So, and it's also been done before. Let's not forget that in 2011, you had Oscar Ramiro Ortega Hernandez, who fired 7 shots at the White House from Constitution Avenue, or at least he hit the White House 7 times, and actually hit some of the windows of the residence on the 2nd floor. Now, we don't know that he actually saw any person or was aiming at a human being. May have just been taking advantage of, trying to get lucky. But this idea of shooters trying to waylay presidents from a far off distance is not something new. We have experienced this before in this country. This is an element of political violence that we are familiar with. And so, yeah, these things are possible. We live in a very dangerous world, as the sheriff mentioned. And the easy ability that anyone has to put their hands on an AK-47 or an AR-15 or a hunting rifle, for that matter, makes this particular threat very important for people like the Secret Service and other security professionals to think about.
Yeah, I remember that incident at the White House. I was reporting from the White House on that day, and I remember how scared all of us were, just the thought that someone from Constitution Avenue could start firing shots at the White House. All of us were there. We were very, very scared. It was a very, very serious moment indeed. All right, Andrew McCabe, everybody else, stand by. Our special breaking news coverage will continue right after a very quick break.
Saturdays this fall, CNN is taking a break from breaking news to air Have I Got News for You.
Breaking news. I'm getting a sandwich.
We need to talk about what constitutes breaking news.
Have I Got News for You, Saturday at 9 on CNN and stream next day on Max.
Bosch dishwashers use water less. Add finished tabs, more success. Work well together every time. Burnt on stains get outshined.
How do I love thee? Let me count the ways.
Love can get a little messy. Good thing there's Resolve. Love the love, resolve the mess.
I was stuck. Unresolved depression symptoms were in my way. I needed more from my antidepressant. Vraylar helped give it a lift.
Adding Vraylar to an antidepressant is clinically proven to help relieve overall depression symptoms better than an antidepressant alone. And in Vraylar clinical studies, most saw no substantial impact on weight.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke, report unusual changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults, report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, as these may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, and high cholesterol may occur. Movement dysfunction and restlessness are common side effects. Stomach and sleep issues, dizziness, increased appetite, and fatigue are also common. Side effects may not appear for several weeks.
I didn't have to change my treatment. I just gave it a lift.
Ask about Vraylar and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
This tiny home trend, not for me. Now this is more like it. The same goes for my footwear. So I went hands-free with wide-fit Skechers slip-ins. Just step in and go without bending down or touching my shoes. Wide-fit, hands-free Skechers slip-ins.
It's time. Yes, the time has come for a fresh approach to dog food. Every day, more dog people are deciding it's time to quit the kibble and feed their dogs fresh food from the farmer's dog. Made by vets and delivered right to your door, precisely portioned for your dog's needs. It's an idea whose time has come.
You never want to lose your edge. And the Lexus RX completely understands that.
Every year, millions of noses are ghosted by their plugins. New Airwick Advanced, our groundbreaking plugin that pulses scent for staying power up to 60 days, plus a fragrance boost button. Our noses won't be ignored again.
Running a small business means running marketing and sales and inventory and customer service and handling pretty much every single thing that comes up, ever. All-in-one small business owners need all-in-one connectivity to make it all work. Spectrum Business is made to work for small business. Get one advanced solution for the lowest price with Spectrum One for Business. Fast, reliable internet, free advanced Wi-Fi with Security Shield, and a free mobile line, all for only $49.99 per month. You're doing it all and can trust that Spectrum Business has your back with ultra-fast internet and over 99.9% network reliability, plus advanced Wi-Fi with Security Shield to provide 24/7 cyber protection. And get a free mobile line to stay connected all the time. Get Spectrum One for Business. One advanced solution with all the connectivity your small business needs for the lowest price. Only $49.99 per month. Call 855-581-6858 today. Spectrum Business. Made to work.
The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. Weeknights at 6 on CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
If you or a loved one have mesothelioma, we'll send you a free book to answer questions you may have. Call now and we'll come to you.
800-821-4000. This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome back. I'm Wolf Blitzer along with Caitlin Collins, and we're covering our live coverage of a major breaking news story. The FBI now saying it is investigating an apparent assassination attempt of Donald Trump. The former president of the United States says he is safe after shots were fired in his vicinity while golfing at his club in West Palm Beach, Florida. Caitlin.
Yeah, Wolf, and what we've learned is that it was Secret Service agents who were on that golf course with him that fired gunshots at the suspect, who they believe was armed and intended to target Donald Trump. They recovered an AK-47 style long-arm rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks, and a GoPro camera, as you can see here from the bushes where this person fled after he was engaged by the Secret Service. Law enforcement officials tell CNN a person has been detained. Authorities have not yet named the suspect who is in custody. We're following all of this live. We've got all of our experts here and our reporters. CNN's Randy Kay joins me now. Randy, obviously, this is a developing situation. We just heard from this press conference where officials were confirming the timeline of events, where Donald Trump was on the golf course when this happened. What more have we learned about how this investigation is progressing?
Well, Caitlin, this investigation is still very much in the early stages and very much underway. In fact, just a moment ago, before we came on camera here, there was a Palm Beach County Sheriff's crime scene van just pulling out of Trump International Golf Club, which is right behind me there. That's the entrance that you see to the golf club where this all happened today. So they clearly are still on the scene, still trying to figure out exactly what happened, looking for any clues, perhaps anything that was left behind by this alleged gunman, and also perhaps from the Secret Service after they had fired their weapons in his direction. So still very much underway here in terms of the investigation. But Caitlin, I should tell you, this is a 27-hole golf course. So what stands out to me from that press conference and the information that we're getting is that they were able to, the Secret Service was able to see that the barrel of the gun coming through that fence between sometime around holes 5 or 6. That is remarkable because this golf course is known for its rolling hills. There's certainly a lot of bunkers, but certainly a lot of cover. So this gunman certainly was somewhere where he thought he wasn't going to be seen, apparently. Certainly didn't come through the front gate. There's a large police presence here and security at the front gate of the International Golf Club. So certainly he was along the perimeter of it. And I can tell you that right away they were able to say, once they apprehended him, that there was no threat to the public. That was very important because there's an elementary school right nearby. There's also a public library right nearby. And as you know, he was apprehended in Martin County, which is about an hour north of here. And we're just minutes away from Interstate 95, so he was able to make that quick getaway. Luckily, a witness was able to tell authorities what his car looked like and even provide those photos, as we heard in the press conference. But certainly still quite a bit of law enforcement presence. It took me about an hour and a half to get here. It normally takes me about 25 minutes. So there was a lot of police, a lot of barricades along the way, and that still is the case now, even though we know that Mar-a-Lago is just about 10 minutes from here, Caitlin, and we know that the former president has left the golf club, and we watched the motorcade depart here. So he apparently is safely back at Mar-a-Lago, but still certainly a lot to be figured out here in terms of what went down today. Caitlin?
Yeah, Randy Kay, I was told that Donald Trump is back at his Mar-a-Lago club. Obviously, as you know, about a 15 to 20-minute drive from where that golf course is. Randy Kay, thank you for that. Wolf?
You know, Caitlin, I thought it was really interesting, and I want our law enforcement experts to assess this. They said at this news conference that we had live here on CNN that they don't see any more danger right now. They think that that has been resolved. So even though there was a lot of danger earlier, no more danger, a direct quote from the briefing that just occurred. And Chief Ramsey, what does that say to you?
Well, I mean, they always have more information than we have right now, but they probably at least feel pretty comfortable that there was no second person or third person directly involved, and pretty sure that the person they have in custody is the one that they found there at the golf course. So they feel pretty confident around that, and that's why they make a statement like that. So again, it's just very fortunate that everything worked very well. That witness cannot get enough credit because they saw that individual leave the bushes, and they had the presence of mind to take a photograph. So they had not only a description of the car, but the actual license tag. And through Real-Time Crime Center, of course, they're able to run that very quickly and put a bolo out. And that's how he was captured so quickly. But there are still questions. I mean, when you look at that map, and I'm not familiar with that area at all, but you can see the roadways that go very close to that. And that there was no one guarding that perimeter at all. And I just, it just makes me wonder if that's something obviously in the future that needs to be taken into consideration. It doesn't look like that would be very difficult to do or very manpower intensive, looking at that sight line, having a couple cars on either end, just to make sure no one parks a car, no one gets out of a car, or anything like that when you have the former president on the golf course.
And John Miller, when the law enforcement authorities said there is no more danger out there right now, and immediately said to me, this suspect was a lone gunman operating on his own, and that there weren't others who were helping him who could potentially represent a danger from outside still at large. I assume that says the same thing to you.
Well, it's also a contextual piece, Wolf, because remember, the earliest reports are people calling 911 who, you know, see Secret Service agents who are dressed down. They're not in their suits and ties because they're working on a golf course, who are shooting and an individual fleeing. So the earliest reports were of two people shooting at each other on the perimeter of the golf course, and that suggested a second gunman. once they sorted out that that was the Secret Service agents confronting the suspected sniper, they were able to frame, okay, so it appears we have a lone gunman, it appears he's in custody, and it appears that the threat to the public around that area is greatly reduced. In the same breath, of course, they ask people to stay out of the area because they've got a big crime scene search and they need their space.
Yeah, good point. John Miller and everyone else, stand by. We've got a lot more to report on. We're standing by for more news that we anticipate will be emerging very soon. Caitlin, back to you.
Yeah, Wolf, a lot of developments coming.
MLB Tuesday on TBS is gearing up for the postseason. Long gone! Phillies, Brewers, Astros, Padres. Live on True TV. Follow MLB Race to the Pennant.
Maya knows how quality care can bring out a smile. But it's been a few dog years since she was able to enjoy a smile of her own. Good thing Aspen Dental offers affordable, complete care all in one place. And new patients without insurance get $29 exams and x-rays, plus 20% off treatment plans for everyone. Loving our patients unconditionally. It's one more way Aspen Dental is in your corner.
Come and get your love.
Move faster than the market so you don't miss out on your dream home. That's just one advantage of having the Home Team advantage. A team of trusted professionals working together so you can win. Meet your team now at realtor.com/hometeam.
You know, Priceline helps families save up to 60% on family-friendly hotels.
So many great trips, we might just leave here with another vacation baby.
Gross.
Oh, take it easy, Paris. And you too, Fort Lauderdale.
Lisa was in Toledo.
Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Still have symptoms from moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease after a TNF blocker like Humira or Remicade? Put them in check with Rinvoq. Rinvoq works differently and it's a once-daily pill.
When symptoms tried to take control, I got rapid relief with Rinvoq. Check.
When flares tried to slow me down, I got lasting steroid-free remission with Rinvoq. Check.
And when my doctor saw damage, Rinvoq helped visibly reduce damage of the intestinal lining. Check.
Rapid symptom relief, lasting steroid-free remission.
And visibly reduced damage. Check, check, and check.
Rinvoq can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB, serious infections and blood clots, some fatal. Cancers, including lymphoma and skin. Heart attack, stroke, and GI tears occurred. People 50 and older with a heart disease risk factor have an increased risk of death. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Tell your doctor if you are or may become pregnant.
Put UC and Crohn's in check and keep them there with Rinvoq.
Ask your gastroenterologist about Rinvoq and learn how AbbVie can help you save.
What's the greatest invention of all time? New hands-free Skechers slip-ins. You just slip in and they're on. It's like they have an invisible built-in shoehorn so your foot slides into place without bending down or touching your shoes. Then the heel pillow technology keeps your foot comfy and secure. Hands-free Skechers slip-ins.
Recipes. Recipes that are more than their ingredients. Recipes written by hand and lost to time can now be analyzed and restored using the power of Dell AI, preserving memories and helping to write new ones.
Greetings happen.
Hi, cutie.
Yeah, that's not good happens. Huge things happen. Home happens. Be there with Ring. Learn more at ring.com.
Honey? But the gains are pumping.
Yeah, the market's closed.
Futures don't sleep in the after hours, bro.
Dad, is Mommy a finance bro?
She switched careers to make money for your weddings.
Ooh, Penny stocks are blowing up. Sweetie, grab your piggy bank. We're going all in. Let me ask you, for your wedding, do you want a gazebo in a river?
What's a gazebo?
Something that your mother always wanted and never got.
Or you could give these different investment options a shot.
The right money moves aren't as aggressive as you think.
I'm keeping the best.
Okay, everyone. Our mission is to provide complete balanced nutrition for strength and energy.
Ensure with 27 vitamins and minerals, nutrients for immune health, and Ensure Complete with 30 grams of protein.
Chase really knows how to put the heart in your local community. See what I did there? Hey, Jackie. Evan, my guy. You helping him with savings, right? I wish I had somebody like Evan when I started. Somebody just got their first debit card. Ice cream on you? Ooh, tacos. I got you. Wait, hold on. Don't you owe me money? What? Your money is a part of your community, so your bank should be too. Like Chase.
I'm Rafael Roma at the Georgia State Capitol in Atlanta. This is CNN.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And we're back with CNN's special live coverage. I'm Caitlin Collins alongside my colleague Wolf Blitzer. We want to welcome our viewers in the U.S. and around the world as we are covering our breaking news today in this hour as the FBI now says it is investigating what appears to be an attempted assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump. Yes, just 2 months after the last attempted assassination of the former president, we are told he is now safe. He is back at his Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida. This comes after about 1:30 this afternoon, police were notified that shots had been fired in his vicinity while he was golfing at his club in West Palm Beach, Florida. That is just across the bridge from where Mar-a-Lago is. As of right now, a suspect is in custody, and just a short time ago, we heard from authorities with an update on how all of this situation played out.
2:30 this afternoon, call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. And we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the witness that witnessed the incident, flew him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is an AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off.
All that coming from Sheriff Rick Bradshaw, the Palm Beach County Sheriff. The law enforcement officials, Caitlin, have not yet named the suspect who was taken into custody on Interstate 95 after this apparent assassination attempt. And it just happened 2 months after Trump was wounded in the ear. A lot of us remember, we saw it live here on CNN, surviving an assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. The U.S. Secret Service shot and killed the gunman in that incident. The FBI says it is now in charge of this investigation in Florida. CNN's Kristen Holmes is joining us right now. Kristen, what more are you learning about this incident involving the former president?
Well, if we're piecing together what we know from that press conference and what we're being told by officials on the ground who are familiar with what happened. So what we're told is this afternoon, Donald Trump was on his golf course in West Palm Beach, Florida. That's the Trump International Golf Course. He was with donor and ally Steve Witkoff. They were traveling between the 5th and 6th golf hole when they heard shots. Now, what we also have been told is that essentially Secret Service had an advanced team ahead of them, several holes, and that is who engaged with the suspect that they saw firing off when they saw that rifle. Now, I will tell you that it is also the campaign, or at least advisors to the campaign, who are feel the same way that that sheriff felt in terms of Secret Service behavior and what happened. Remember, when that assassination attempt happened in Butler, there were a lot of questions as to why they did not engage with this gunman sooner. We know now that Secret Service, based on that press conference, did engage once they saw the rifle in the brush just off of the golf course. Now, it's not clear exactly how far it was from that rifle to where Donald Trump was, but as we heard during that press conference, the sheriff himself saying that with that kind of rifle, which was an AK-style rifle and a scope, it didn't really matter the distance. He was still close enough. So certainly within the vicinity, we had been told by sources, and obviously we've now heard from the FBI, that they believe that Donald Trump was the intended target of this suspect you see there, who was found with these backpacks, a GoPro, and this long-range style missile. Donald Trump, as we've noted, is back at his Mar-a-Lago club after being held for several hours at that golf club as they were searching the scene, as they were making sure it was secure, as they were making sure it was secure for him to travel in that motorcade. It's only about 12-minute ride from the golf course to Mar-a-Lago, but they still had to secure the streets, make sure that it was safe for him to travel. I'm sure John Miller will be speaking about this later, but these law enforcement officials have said that they need to make sure there's not a second gunman, that there's not a second target, that there's not anyone lying in wait. We saw the same thing happen with Butler when Donald Trump went to the hospital, and then we didn't know where he was after a lockdown for several hours until he ended up at the airport. That is all systematic. It is all customary when something like this happens. But of course, this circumstance, there's nothing customary about it at all, because we are talking about, as you've noted, the second assassination attempt on the former president in the same matter of months. It has shooken a lot of those people around him up, and they are obviously asking a lot of questions. One of the main questions is, how exactly did the suspect know where Donald Trump would be? It's important to maintain and to understand that Donald Trump is not the current sitting president. He doesn't have to put out a schedule every single day. He doesn't travel with a pool that knows his whereabouts at all times. He is a candidate and he has security, but this was not an event, golfing at his West Palm Beach Golf Club, that was on any sort of external schedule. In fact, he's been traveling a lot with the campaign travel and his various properties, that there were several people I've spoken to who didn't even know that he was in Palm Beach, Florida this weekend, that he would be playing golf. And these are people who talk to him on a regular basis. So while the preliminary conversations I'm having with advisors and the people close to him say they are very happy with the way that security was handled, we know that after these shots were fired, Donald Trump was whisked away in a golf cart by a second set of security agents, Secret Service agents, who put him into the club again that was secured down. There are still a lot of questions as to how exactly the suspect knew where Donald Trump was going to be and when.
All right, Kristen, thank you very much. Kristen Holmes reporting, doing excellent reporting for us. Appreciate it very much. Caitlin, back to you.
Yeah, Wolf, and as we're breaking all of this down, hearing from officials during that briefing, we have our law enforcement analyst with us. And Jonathan Wackrow, I want to start with you, because obviously a lot of focus has been on the Secret Service since what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania 2 months ago. And now today, officials there at that briefing were praising the Secret Service for how quickly they acted here, that it was an agent who almost unbelievably was able to be advancing Trump on the golf course to see the barrel of that rifle sticking out of the bushes, and was able to engage with this person before Donald Trump obviously got to that hole as he was planning to do. And when you look at the Secret Service that's around Trump, it's obviously been ramped up since Butler, but is it at the level that a current president has? How can you tell us what that looks like?
Well, I don't want to share too much around what the full protective structure is of the President of the United States, because there is a lot of national security structures that are built into that position. But former President Trump has had a significant enhancement to his protective detail, both in the women and men that surround him on a day-to-day basis, but also in terms of the advanced agents, the technology that's applied to protecting the former president. We've seen some of these things visually. We've seen some of the protective enhancements, such as the ballistic glass that is now with him on all outdoor public events. You've seen an increase of the size. I think, Caitlin, you talked about the detail earlier. That you have noticed that there have been additional agents that are surrounding the former president. So what you're seeing is actually the protective structure moving closer to the vice presidential level, which is a significant enhancement from what the protective model typically is for former presidents such as, former President Obama, Bush, or Clinton. It is really a new model for the Secret Service, but it's a model that has to be put into place because I think, as Wolf, you had mentioned earlier, the threat environment surrounding Donald Trump, both from domestic threats as well as this overarching foreign threat from the Iranians, necessitate this level of enhancement. And really, for the Secret Service, this is unprecedented.
Okay, but Jonathan, can I follow up with you on that? Because here's the question I think a lot of people watching are going to have, which is 2 months ago, what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania happened. It's not just obviously the fact that we saw Trump came within an inch of his life that day, but also what we do know about the increased threat from Iran that has been directed at Donald Trump, at his campaign, at his family that we know of. I think a lot of people will look at this and say, why are they still letting Donald Trump go out on a golf course that has a perimeter that, as officials said there, once someone is in the shrubbery surrounding this golf course, it's incredibly difficult to be able to spot them. There's 3 roads that surround this golf course there. And I think some people may look at that and say, this is someone who golfs regularly. It's very clear when he has left Mar-a-Lago and gone to the to the Trump International, the golf course about 15 minutes away. So it's not like someone wouldn't be able to know that he's there. And so how does Secret Service approach something like that?
Well, listen, as we're hearing from reporting, and I'm sure as the Secret Service starts divulging more information around how the shooter was identified, there are specific protocols that have been in place for the former president when he is golfing, and that structure has since been enhanced even more with additional agents. Again, today the model worked where those agents that were flanking in advance of the president, their role specifically is to identify this type of specific long-range threat. Now, the follow-up question is going to be, and the Secret Service will need to address this, is how is the outer perimeter? How is this shooter able to get to that outer perimeter, an area that should have been identified as a vulnerability previously? Again, if you're able to get line of sight from the fence line into the golf course where the former president is in this threat environment, that needs to be addressed fully. And Caitlin, as you may remember, back in 2017, there was a CNN crew that was actually filming the then president of the United States, golfing with a clear line of sight that then was blocked or mitigated by a box truck. But so the thought that seeing inside the golf course from the exterior, this isn't the first time this has happened. So there are some questions that the Secret Service will have to answer for that. But at the end of the day, the protective model that surrounds the president worked. We saw that happen. And more to the point, the communication, the immediate notification by the agent that shots were fired, that there was a suspect. That communication was immediately picked up by local law enforcement, who were able to carry forward the immediate action of setting up a perimeter around the golf course, and then getting the witness to identify exactly the vehicle, the tag number, and bringing a successful resolution to the immediate threat.
And Jonathan, it's Wolf. I just want to follow up on one specific point. Over the years, I've covered the Secret Service quite intensely, and I know there's one level of security for a sitting president of the United States, another level of security for a former president of the United States, like Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or Donald Trump for that matter right now. But there's another level of security for someone who may be a former president who's also the presidential nominee of a major party, a Republican presidential nominee right now. And that's a much higher level of security than just for a former president. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. But Wolf, I think right now we have to put into context, we are in uncharted territory right now with the former president. We are seeing no one could predict that we'd have 2 assassination attempts domestically against the former president. The Secret Service, was, for a long time, they were a little bit on their heels, trying to address this new and dynamic threat environment around the president. Now they're leaning into it with more assets, more agents. They're applying as much as they can to ensure that the former president is safe. We're seeing physically we're seeing the control measures that are around the former president significantly enhanced. As I said, it's coming closer to vice presidential, like sitting vice presidential level protection, but there still is more that needs to be done. Again, we came very close to a disaster today, and that is way too close. Again, the model has to be changing to the threats that they're facing day in and day out now, both from domestic actors and potentially hostile foreign actors.
Excellent analysis, Jonathan. Thank you very much. John Miller is with us as well, our law enforcement analyst. John, I assume security is going to be beefed up for all of these major players right now, not just the former president who's running for president once again, but the sitting president, the sitting vice president, who's the Democratic presidential nominee, and some other high-ranking federal officials.
Well, it's hard to increase security around the sitting president. As Jonathan described earlier, that's quite an incredible security package. Nothing is left to chance. And that descends as you go down to lower officials, including candidates. The difference with Donald Trump at this point is the security he's receiving is about as close as you would get to the presidential package for somebody who's not the sitting president, because of the intelligence on the Iranian assassination plot, because of the assassination plot that happened in Pennsylvania. And I think this will bring it up yet another level. What you're seeing, though, is basic assassination tactics. We haven't seen a successful sniper killing of a president of the United States since Lee Harvey Oswald in Texas and President John Kennedy. But what we do know about these assassins are, I think technology has changed this a lot, and it comes to bear here. But we've also seen the personality profiles done by the threat assessment people at the Secret Service. The behavioral analysis unit at the FBI tells us that about 70% of these people, their main goal is to hurt the person that they're attacking. About 38% is their main goal is notoriety, and 12% are anticipating they're going to get killed in the process. So when you look at that GoPro camera, that could tell us a lot, especially if it was rolling and streaming during this incident.
Yeah, that GoPro video camera is a significant development indeed. We'll have much more on that coming up. All right, John, everybody stand by. We're going to take another quick break. Our breaking news coverage will continue right after this.
For 30 years, I've been saying publicly what people are saying to themselves. I have enough money. I could just shut up. But you know, I can't.
Carver, Saturday, October 5th on CNN.
We've never spoken, but you've told us many things. That you love stargazing, hate parallel parking, and occasionally your right foot gets a little heavy. The Lexus ES didn't begin in the studio, it began with you.
Recipes. Recipes written by hand and lost to time are now being analyzed and restored using the power of Dell AI.
Meet the Jennifers. Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. Each planning their future through the Chase mobile app. Gen X is planning a summer in Portugal with some help from JP Morgan Wealth Plan. Let's go, Whiskers. Gen Y is working with a banker to budget for her birthday. You only turn 30 once. And Gen Z, her credit's golden. Hello, new apartment. 3 gens getting ahead with Chase. Solutions that grow with you. One bank for now, for later, for life. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Smile, you found it. The feeling of finding psoriasis can't filter out the real you. So go ahead, live unfiltered with the one and only Sotyktu, a once-daily pill for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis and the chance at clear or almost clear skin. It's like the feeling of finding you're so ready for your close-up, or finding you don't have to hide your skin, just your background. Once daily Sotyktu was proven better, getting more people clearer skin than the leading pill. Don't take if you're allergic to Sotyktu. Serious reactions can occur. Sotyktu can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB. Serious infections, cancers including lymphoma, muscle problems, and changes in certain labs have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, liver or kidney problems, high triglycerides, or had a vaccine or plan to. Sotyktu is a TYK2 inhibitor. TYK2 is part of the JAK family. It's not known if Sotyktu has the same risks as JAK inhibitors. Find what plaque psoriasis has been hiding. There's only one Sotyktu, so ask for it by name. So clearly you. Sotyktu.
Did I read this? Did I get eggs? Where are my keys?
Don't wait while memory and thinking issues pile up. These issues may seem like normal aging, but could be due to a buildup of amyloid plaques in the brain. Amyloid can build up over time. The sooner you talk to your doctor, the more options you may have. Visit amyloid.com for additional information.
Type 2 diabetes? Discover the Ozempic Trizone. I got the power of 3. I lowered my A1C, CV risk, and lost some weight.
In studies, the majority of people reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it.
I'm under 7.
Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events such as stroke, heart attack, or death in adults also with known heart disease.
I'm lowering my risk.
Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
I lost some weight.
Ozempic isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take Ozempic if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2 or if allergic to it. Stop Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Living with type 2 diabetes?
Ask about the power of 3 with Ozempic.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can it keep me warm when I'm cold?
Wait, no, I'm always hot.
Sleep Number does that.
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Sleep Number does that. Your ideal firmness and effortless comfort all night.
Can it help us sleep better and better?
Please.
Sleep Number does that. 9 out of 10 couples report better sleep. Save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition Smart Bed, plus free home delivery when you add an adjustable base. Shop now at a Sleep Number store near you.
You're seeing Skechers' famous glide step footwear everywhere. And now that famous design is available in hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Get the comfort and style of glide step now with the convenience of slip-ins with no bending down or touching your shoes. Try glide step Skechers slip-ins.
I'm Nick Robertson in the West Bank, and this is CNN.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And welcome back to our special live coverage of the breaking news this evening. We want to welcome our viewers here in the United States and around the world. The former president of the United States, Donald Trump, is safe and secure at this hour following what the FBI is calling an apparent attempted assassination. The second such threat posed to the former president in just over 2 months. And a suspect is now in custody. Caitlin.
Yeah, Wolf, and we're hearing from investigators who say that as this transpired, Secret Service agents fired at the suspect in the bushes outside of Trump's golf course just before 2 o'clock this afternoon. It was actually about 1:30 at the Trump International Golf Course. That's in West Palm Beach, Florida. You're looking at the map right now. That comes after agents spotted this person holding a gun in the bushes. They could see the barrel of it pointed out through them near where the former president was playing golf. Investigators say that the suspect was just a few hundred yards, actually, from the former president and was equipped with an AK-style rifle that had a scope and 2 backpacks and also a GoPro camera mounted on the fence. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office says the suspect has not yet spoken to investigators but is in custody. We're continuing to follow all of this. Sunlen Serfati is live at the White House, where Sunlen, officials there, obviously President Biden, Vice President Harris, also being briefed on what has just happened this afternoon at Donald Trump's golf course in southern Florida.
That's right, Caitlin. Both President Biden and Vice President Harris have been briefed on this incident, and Vice President Harris condemning political violence and also noting that she is certainly glad that the former President Trump is safe. We're also hearing from her running mate, Tim Walz, echoing a lot of those sentiments and also adding that violence has no place in America. It is not who we are as a nation. Now, as you said, the president himself has been briefed, and that's something that we saw quickly be released within 45 minutes of the Trump campaign alerting press to this incident. We heard from the White House that the president and Vice President Harris has been briefed. We are also hearing from Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. He was briefed by the acting Secret Service director today, and he noted the quick response and applauded the quick response of the Secret Service, and also said that the perpetrator must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. A Florida Republican congressman, meantime, a member of the Trump Assassination Task Force that notably was formed after the previous assassination attempt back in July in Butler, Pennsylvania, he says that he will call on U.S. Secret Service to brief them on Capitol Hill this week, and Caitlin, probably the first of many members of Congress who will ask for the same. Caitlin.
Sunlen Serfati, thank you for that report. Wolf.
Caitlin, our panel is still with us, Charles Ramsey, Jonathan Wackrow, John Miller, and Andrew McCabe. And Andrew, let me start with you. We're told now the FBI, your former deputy director of the FBI, is now in charge of this investigation. Walk us through what's going on.
Sure. So the FBI has primacy, as they say, for investigations of incidents, of terrorist incidents here in the United States, and also assassination. So this is all very clearly spelled out in presidential directives that date back into the 1980s. What they're doing right now, Wolf, is trying to consume as much information as they can possibly find about this individual. So they are likely preparing search warrants for any location they can tie to him, his residence. Maybe he has a work location that they know about. If he has any storage facilities or things like that, they're going to want to look in those as well. They are likely interviewing people who know him, parents, spouses, family members, work associates and friends, things like that. When they execute those search warrants, they're going to be looking for devices that might contain electronic evidence. So devices that he used to search the internet, devices that he used to access social media, to send text messages or phone calls or emails to friends and associates. All of those things will be seized, and then search warrants will be served on the companies that provide the services to those devices. So they want to know everything he's written, everyone he's talking to, and they want to take that information and build a timeline as to what exactly he was doing in the hours and days and weeks leading up to this event. And everything they collect that falls into that timeline, all that stuff could likely be used as evidence at trial if this person decides to fight the charges against him. We know that he'll be facing state charges. We heard from Dave Ehrenberg, the local prosecutor, and I think it's likely that he'll face federal charges as well. We haven't heard from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami just yet, but I expect that within the next 24 hours, we certainly will, and I would expect to see this person charged. One thing, Wolf, that I think is really important to remember, and we've had some comments about it so far, it's going to be really interesting to see exactly what this person knew when he went to the fence line with a gun and his GoPro and all that other stuff. If he knew that Trump was golfing and that would be coming around that kind of northeastern corner of the golf course at that time, and so therefore he was waiting essentially at the end of the next hole, the sixth hole, that's a very troubling thing because it raises all kinds of questions as to how did he gain access to that information. It's also possible that he didn't know any of that he may have just taken his chances and thought, Trump talks about golf on the weekends all the time. Maybe I'll just go out there and see if he shows up. So these are two, kind of opposite ends of the spectrum on that fact. And where he ends up falling on that spectrum is going to be very important to assess the nature of the threat that he posed and that maybe others involved with him might still pose. Yeah, that's such an important part of this FBI investigation that's underway right now. Andrew, how did he know, if he in fact did know, that Trump was going to be playing golf at that golf club on this Sunday afternoon? There was no public announcement about what Trump was doing, no advance word to the media or anyone else. Did he have inside information? And that's something I'm sure the FBI is going to be investigating very, very carefully. Caitlin, you got more on this.
Well, and Wolf, that's exactly it, is the question of also about his schedule, because he doesn't have the same kind of public schedule or huge a White House pool traveling with him like he did when he was in office. But certainly we saw his motorcade coming back over the bridge as he was returning to Mar-a-Lago earlier. It's not discreet. You know where Donald Trump is and when he's going if you're in that area and if you know this. And I think that's the question, Chief Ramsey, is that if you take a step back and as this investigation is playing out and we're waiting to learn more about this suspect, the idea that 2 months after an attempted assassination of Donald Trump, that someone with an AK-47 was able to get within 400 to 500 yards of the former president of the United States is just mind-blowing. And that is, I think, the question everyone has right now is how this could be able to happen again, as Trump is obviously out on a golf course, probably one of the most difficult areas for Secret Service to secure.
Well, one of the things that's going to happen is, as a part of this, it'll be a thorough debriefing and analysis of the security, what took place, what worked, what could be enhanced. All those kinds of things are going to be very important. Andrew mentioned something that I think is very important when he was talking about the search warrants and the seizure of electronic equipment, smartphones, computers. They'll be looking to see if he was getting text messages, if he was sending text messages, all those kinds of things, because you're right. I mean, how did he know he was going to be, on the golf course today and be lying in wait? I mean, it could be just random luck, but I'm not a big believer of luck. So, that's going to be one question that's going to be very important to have answered. And right now, we don't know if he's cooperating with investigators or not. Hopefully he is. If he is, then we'll get answers to a lot of questions. If he's not, then they're going to have to do a lot of digging in order to be able to come up with some answers to those questions.
Yeah, as of the last hour we heard, he was not yet speaking to investigators. We'll see if that changes in the minutes and the hours going forward. Chief Ramsey, everyone, thank you for that. We want everyone to stand by because we are continuing to get new information, and it seems even by the minute, about what happened at Trump's golf course today and what the FBI is saying was an apparent attempted assassination of him. We're going to take a quick break and be back with our new information in a moment.
Saturdays this fall, CNN is taking a break from breaking news to air Have I Got News for You.
Breaking news. I'm getting a sandwich.
We need to talk about what constitutes breaking news.
Have I Got News for You, Saturday at 9 on CNN and stream next day on Max.
You know what's brilliant? Boring. Think about it. Boring is the unsung catalyst for bold.
What straps gold to a rocket and hurtles it into space? Boring does.
Boring makes vacations happen.
Early retirement's possible.
And startups start up.
Because it's smart, dependable, and steady. All words you want from your bank. For nearly 160 years, PNC Bank has been brilliantly boring, so you can be happily fulfilled. Which is pretty unboring if you think about it.
From starting strong to it's been a week. So many ways to save. Life ready, wallet happy. That's 365 by Whole Foods Market.
Some days you can feel like a spectator in your own life with chronic migraine. 15 or more headache days a month, each lasting 4 hours or more. Botox prevents headaches in adults with chronic migraine before they start. And treatment is 4 times a year. In a survey, 91% of users wish they'd started sooner. So why wait? Talk to your doctor.
Effects of Botox may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away, as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness can be signs of a life-threatening condition. Side effects may include allergic reactions, neck and injection site pain, fatigue, and headache. Don't receive Botox if there's a skin infection. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects.
Chronic migraine may still keep you from being there. Why wait? Talk to your doctor about Botox and get in the picture. Learn how AbbVie can help you save.
You're seeing Skechers' famous glide step footwear everywhere. And now that famous design is available in hands-free Skechers slip-ins. Get the comfort and style of glide step now with the convenience of slip-ins with no bending down or touching your shoes. Try glide step Skechers slip-ins.
Knowing how to write the offer that wins the home.
That's just one advantage of having the home team advantage. A team of trusted professionals working together so you can win. Meet your team now at realtor.com/hometeam.
Citi's industry-leading global payment solutions help their clients move money around the world seamlessly in over 180 countries, and help a partner like the World Food Program as they provide more than food to people in need. Together, Citi and the World Food Program empower families across the globe.
The 2024 election will decide not only who leads our nation, but also your community. From the halls of Congress to your state capitol, let Spectrum News 13 be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices. Exclusively on Spectrum.
Hi, I'm Steve Ballmer. I spent 34 years growing Microsoft, 10 years owning the LA Clippers basketball team. I love computers, I love data, and I love facts. That's why I started USA Facts, and why we're unveiling a video series on the big issues that impact America. And no, don't worry, I'm not running for office. The more we know, the better voters we can be. So I'll deliver you the facts, straight up, and you make up your own minds.
I'm Eva McCann on the road with the Harris Walls campaign, and this is CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Mesobook.com.
If you or a loved one have mesothelioma, we'll send you a free book to answer questions you may have. Call now and we'll come to you.
800-821-4000. This is CNN Breaking News.
And we're back with our live coverage. The FBI says it is now investigating an apparent assassination attempt, a second one, of Donald Trump in Florida this afternoon. The former president is safe. He's back at his Mar-a-Lago beach club down there in Palm Beach. But this comes after just the second such threat that was posed to him. It was just over 2 months ago that shooting happened in Butler, Pennsylvania at his rally. What we know right now, as of this hour, Wolf, is that a male suspect is now in custody.
And we also know, Caitlin, that investigators are saying that U.S. Secret Service agents spotted a rifle barrel sticking out of a fence over at the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach, where the former president was playing golf around 1:30 earlier this afternoon. The agents opened fire on the alleged gunman, who then fled, and investigators say they found an AK-47 style rifle, a GoPro video camera, and two backpacks in the bushes. The Palm Beach County Sheriff says the suspect was arrested a short distance away up on Interstate 95. So far, he has not been named by law enforcement and has not yet given investigators a statement. Joining us right now, CNN's Randy Kay. She's live outside the Trump International Golf Course. Carlos Suarez is live outside Mar-a-Lago. Randy, let me go to you right away. Walk us through, first of all, what you're seeing, what you're hearing, where you are.
Wolf, I can tell you that this is very much an active crime scene where we are outside Trump International Golf Club. There has been a steady stream of crime scene vans coming in and out of here from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department, so they are still actively investigating what happened hours ago inside that golf club. Also, this is Summit Boulevard here behind me, one of three very heavily trafficked areas that surround Trump International Golf Club, and as you can see, there is no traffic here behind me at all. This boulevard is completely closed off. The area really still is, Wolf, essentially under a lockdown. There are police flashing lights and barricades as far as the eye can see. No cars, except for the media and other law enforcement, are getting in and out of this area. But this all went down, as you know, hours ago. There's 27 holes here at this golf club, and somewhere between the fifth and sixth hole, apparently, those Secret Service members, as you said, did spot the barrel of a rifle poking through the fence, and they were able to engage that apparent gunman and alleged gunman, and then were able to chase him down up Interstate 95 and apprehend him. So still so many questions, Wolf, at this hour. But one thing we do know is that it doesn't seem to be any threat to the community, even though it is still under lockdown. Officials are saying that even though they know that the parents were concerned, there's an elementary school in the area, there's a public library in the area. They said you'll be able to get your children to school, and there isn't any immediate threat right now. But as I mentioned, certainly a lot of questions. Who is this gunman? What was he doing here? How did he get to the somewhere between the fifth and sixth hole? Apparently, we know he didn't go through the front gate here at Trump International. There's heavy security and law enforcement there at that front gate, so that was not going to happen for him. So it's unclear how he got settled in that area, what he was planning to do. We know he had those two backpacks, the AK-47 style rifle, according to law enforcement, as well as a GoPro. So still, Wolf, despite the investigation in the early hours, still many, many questions as we go forward tonight.
And we will continue to check back with you, Randy. Thanks very much. Caitlin, back to you.
Yeah, we also have Carlos Torres on the scene outside of Trump's club in Mar-a-Lago. It's about 15 minutes away from where Randy Kay is. And Carlos, obviously, we heard earlier as all of this is happening this afternoon, the Trump campaign headquarters is also in West Palm Beach, one of their major offices. It was locked down because staff was on the scene as all of this was happening, as there were reports of shots fired, and people were still trying to figure out what exactly was going on. What can you tell us, and I should note that lockdown has since been lifted, I'm told by sources, but what can you tell us about the security presence where you are right now and what you're seeing?
Yeah, Caitlin, so it's important to note that a lot of the security measures that we're seeing outside of Mar-a-Lago, they were put in place after the first attempted assassination that took place in Pennsylvania. Southern Boulevard, which connects the mainland and Palm Beach, is open at this hour, though there are two command posts that have been set up by the sheriff's office. They are right now not stopping any cars that are trying to get out onto Palm Beach. There is a small island that sits between the mainland and Palm Beach. That is normally open to the public, and so folks are able to park their cars there and get a look at the property. However, that has been closed by law enforcement, and so folks are not able to stop there. And then once you get onto Palm Beach, there is a road, South Ocean Boulevard, that runs along the perimeter of the Mar-a-Lago resort. That, again, has been closed since the first attempted assassination took place. It is closed every single time that the former president is at his property, and so only folks that live in the neighborhood or that are visiting someone who lives in this neighborhood are able to get out onto Palm Beach. We're about 10 to 15 minutes from where Randy Kay is, where this incident took place at the golf course. And it took us a little bit more time to get to this location from there because, as Randy mentioned, there are several streets that have been closed as this investigation unfolds. And so for us to get from that location here, we kind of had to go through some different side streets just to get out east from where this took place. The last time that we were at this location was in late July. That was when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu paid a visit to the former president, and we saw these type of similar security measures that were in place at the time then. They have carried over into today, and in fact, Caitlin and Wolf were being told that before the former president made his way back to Mar-a-Lago after this incident at the golf course, it appears that he may have been held up a bit because authorities were still trying to make sure that the perimeter of that golf course was safe, but then also the roads that he was going to take, again, 10 to 15 minutes from here, were also safe for him to travel. Guys?
Carlos Torres, thank you so much for that report. Stand by because, Wolf, we do have some breaking news right now. I want to get to CNN's John Miller. We did not have a name of the person who was in custody earlier. Obviously, law enforcement had it, but they were not revealing it to us at that time. But John Miller, you've been doing some reporting. What can you tell us?
Well, we've been working with the name for some time to develop background on this individual. The individual who's in custody is Ryan Wesley Routh. He's born in 1966. He's 58 years old. He has been living in Hawaii. He is a construction worker in North Carolina. When you look at his background, on the criminal side, he has what appears to be 8 arrests, mostly for minor offenses. But in his social media, he goes deep into his self-proclaimed involvement in the conflict in Ukraine, his efforts to recruit soldiers and bring them into the country, his claims that he has been there, possibly as a fighter. So they are looking and digging deeper into his background. And of course, one of the things they're looking at is what is the motive and what was the purpose of not only this alleged attempt to assassinate former President Trump, but also to record it on a GoPro camera, if not stream it. For what purpose? Is it propaganda? Does it have to do with one of these issues or conflicts he's been interested in? Is it tied to the Ukraine? All of these still open questions now, but we are beginning to get a layered picture of the individual that they have in custody.
John, let me just follow up on that Ukrainian aspect of this. If this individual was in favor of Ukraine and wanting the U.S. to help Ukraine at that debate, Trump was specifically asked if he supports Ukraine, what would he do as far as Ukraine is concerned? And he was very, very vague on his level of support for the Ukrainian government. So presumably that's one area of investigation. What, if any, connection to Trump's position on Ukraine could have played in this attempted assassination? Is that what I'm hearing?
And that will be. And there has been much discussion, and you and Caitlin are very familiar with this, about Trump's claims that Ukraine would have never happened if he were here, that he could end it within a couple of days if he were reelected. But there's been much speculation that has less to do with support of Zelensky in that war than his desire to go a different direction. So could that be a motive from somebody who has been proclaiming on social media that they are committed to that fight and committed to getting soldiers and committing to getting support for them? Some of the things we have read through involves his call to get former Afghan fighters and to funnel them into the Ukraine. So there is apparently a significant interest there. Now, whether that is the motive is really secondary in the immediate sense to law enforcement, because their primary job right now is, let's lock this down. Let's figure out what the charges are going to be. State charges, as the state's attorney indicated, a detention hearing to make sure this individual is kept in custody, federal charges to follow based on what the U.S. attorney and the FBI bring forward, and then motive will come behind that. So we may not expect to hear a lot about that in the immediate sense, but it'll be of great interest to us, and we'll keep digging into that.
Do we know, John, if this suspect served in the U.S. military where he may have been trained to use a firearm?
We don't see that yet, but we do have claims in his social media that he has been overseas fighting in Ukraine, which would explain a couple of things. First off, it might explain his favoring the AK-47, the rifle that is most popular in Eastern Europe and Russia and those conflicts. But it also might explain the equipment, his setup, the ceramic plates for body armor, and so on. But again, as you know, we're at the early stages of this, and peeling back the layers of his life, as Andy McCabe said, is going to mean going through all of his electronics, not just what we can see front-facing on social media, but all of those things hidden behind it. Coming from Hawaii, living in North Carolina, the vehicle he's driving apparently is registered to his daughter. She may live in the area, but we don't have a handle on how long he has been in the South Florida area, or whether he just traveled there to carry out this mission, allegedly.
Well, yeah, and John, how old did you say? How old did you say he was, John?
He's born in 1958. I mean, I'm sorry, he's born in 1966, which makes him 58.
Well, and Andrew McCabe, when you're hearing that, the profile, as we're learning more about this, John just mentioned the extensive social media postings that obviously investigators are going through, but also this is a person who has a criminal record that's been arrested 8 times, John said, for minor offenses. What else are officials looking into when it comes to something like that?
Well, it's really the whole picture they want, Caitlin. They want to know not only where this guy was from and what motivated him this day, but kind of what was his journey that brought him to this point, because it tells us a lot about extremism generally. It tells us a lot about threat, the sort of things that, for instance, in this case, Secret Service maybe needs to think more about in terms of the protection of the former president. But the small clues, like the fact that he's been arrested 8 times, might mitigate against the likelihood of his having had significant military experience, unless those things happened after his military experience. It seems from the details that John's been able to provide, the most really relevant piece are those comments about having served in Ukraine. That could form the basis of some sort of grievance or political or ideological philosophy that would put him in conflict with the former president. So that's something that investigators will dig into. While it's not necessary to prove someone's motive in the course of a prosecution, it can be very helpful in proving their intent. And intent is an element of every crime. You always have to prove that the person you've charged intended to commit the crime that they've been charged with. Here, they're going to look for pieces of evidence that clearly lay out his reason for being in the bushes with an AK-47, looking at the golf course, was because he was targeting the former president. They're going to need to be able to prove that in order to convict him of attempted assassination. But it is likely, if he's this prolific on social media and he hasn't taken the steps that a very advanced shooter might have taken to clean their social media accounts before they actually took some sort of action, if he's left this stuff out there and it's still visible for the general public to see, there's going to be a lot of evidence for investigators to kind of sort through to understand exactly what was making him tick today.
It's interesting, and I want to bring Chief Ramsey into this as well. Chief, what jumped out at you from the details that John Miller is now reporting about this suspect?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. First of all, now we have a name and an age, and that's critically important because that we didn't have before. But facts like you just finished talking to Andy about, his attitude toward the war in Ukraine, the fact that he claims he fought there and was recruiting people to go fight. Does that make it a motive? Not necessarily, but it's certainly something that's going to cause them to want to take a deeper look at that. And again, the social media aspect of this, I mean, he's 58 years old and to have a social media footprint, not that older people don't, but it shows that he's very active on social media. He did have a GoPro, so he was planning on filming himself, and he wanted to leave that behind, in my opinion, if he had been successful. And so all these things are, I think, important clues, but the most important clues are going to come from the execution of those search warrants and the evidence they're able to gather from his home, a business, interviewing friends, family, smartphones, all those kinds of things. That's where the evidence is going to really come from, and that's what they're actively working right now. And now that his name is out there, obviously there's going to be a lot of interest in tracking down friends and relatives of this individual.
Well, and Wolf, just as we're reporting on this and we are getting new information by the moment, I also just want to report some more news that I'm hearing from sources and that our colleagues have also confirmed, which is that in recent days, the Trump campaign was briefed by U.S. intelligence officials about new indications that Iran was planning to increase its attempt to attack former President Donald Trump and those around him. We're hearing this from sources. This is something that was briefed to the Trump campaign. I should note, and I want to be very clear here, we don't know that this new intelligence and this new briefing that the Trump campaign got about this attempt by Iran to escalate its attack on Donald Trump is it at all related to this second attempted assassination that happened today on his golf course. But it does speak to the threat environment that is facing him and has been facing him for several months now, as we learned earlier this summer about these attempts. I'm told that this is related to both the physical and also a potential cyber attack, Wolf. And I just want to get back to you, Andrew McCabe, on this reporting. And while we don't know that it has anything to do with what happened today, what it says about overall what the Secret Service and Homeland Security and officials are taking into account.
Caitlin, what it tells us, it gives us a very small insight into a very, very troubling, complicated, diverse threats that are facing our political leadership today. And, you know, the fact that they've been briefed on these threats means that the intelligence community considers them credible and reliable, and things that they feel like the Secret Service and those engaged in protecting the former president really need to take action on. And so this brings us back to the conversation we had a little while ago, where we were commenting on how is it that this could happen 2 times in just a couple of months, and that someone could get this close to the president from, you know, just kind of poking in from through the fence at the golf course. There is always a tension between protectees and the protective service, particularly when the protectee is someone who's running for office. They want to be available. They want to be within reach and interacting with the general public. They don't want to typically project an image that looks, you know, fearful of threats and like hyper-focused on security. On the other hand, the Secret Service would typically like to lock down every detail they possibly could and never let the protectee, in this case, the former president, leave the house. I mean, obviously, neither one of those extremes is going to happen. You have to find some sort of balance in the middle. But you could really see some changes in the way that Donald Trump conducts himself in the next couple of months as a result of this. And one of those could be, you know, not spending quite so much time on the golf course in places in the wide open where you could really be accessed or seen, create those opportunities of line of sight. Or you may see a massive bolstering of resources around the perimeter of that golf course. If you put a couple of marked cars all along those 4 streets that border the course, you'd really cut down on a lot of the opportunity for anyone to sneak into that wood line and conduct some mischief. So this is only going to get worse as we get closer to the election. People who are compelled to act, whether they're lone actors or people who are driven by foreign intelligence organizations, they're in an increasingly compressed time period to conduct the actions or operations that they want to conduct. And so this is it. This is the 4th quarter. Every possible security element needs to be taken out of the toolbox right now and put to good effect.
Yeah, I suspect that security is going to be really, really tightened at every event that Trump is going to be doing from now until November, all these public events that are going on, given these past 2 assassination attempts. Everyone, thank you very, very much. We, of course, are going to continue following all this major breaking news. The FBI says it is investigating this apparent assassination attempt of Donald Trump down in Florida. The former president, thank God, is safe, now back at his Mar-a-Lago home. Caitlin.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining us as we've been following this breaking news, Wolf, for the last several hours. Wolf Blitzer in Washington. Our breaking news coverage is going to continue. Stay here with CNN and Aaron Burnett after a quick break.
CNN News Central, weekdays at 7 Eastern.